The Mariana Trench is home to some of the weirdest and most unique creatures on Earth, each adapted to life in one of the harshest environments imaginable. Whether it's glowing fish, acid-eating worms, or huge, strange squids, these are disturbing sea creatures only found in the Mariana Trench. We're kicking things off with the toothed sea devil, a truly bizarre anglerfish. This little creature is a real nightmare. Like you need me to tell you that looking at it. The female grows to about 13 centimeters or 5 inches long, and she doesn't have the usual fishing lure that most anglerfish do. Instead, she has a longer, sleeker body that helps her hunt more actively. But the really creepy part is her set of teeth. These teeth sprout from all these odd angles, crisscrossing inside, even outside her mouth, almost like they're stitched together. It just looks insane. Each tooth ends in a hook too, and they can move independently of each other, which helps her trap her prey. It's not clear exactly what she's hunting down there because scientists haven't observed any feeding behavior yet. These things just live so deep down, specimens are too rare to figure out what's actually in her stomach. As for the males, they have a glowing lure that they use to attract prey. Once something gets close enough, it snaps its massive jaws around the poor creature, sometimes even eating animals that are bigger than itself. The males also do something really strange too. They use their large sinus cavities to track down a female by scent, and when they find her, they latch onto her with their teeth and stay there for the rest of their life. Over time, their skin fuses with hers, and most of their body shrivels up while they feed off her BLOOD. It's a pretty crazy, creepy way to live. Then there's the Dumbo octopus, which looks like an adorable Disney creature compared to the nightmare fuel we just covered, hence the Dumbo reference. These little guys are pretty strange though. They look like they have big floppy ears, but those are actually fins. These octopuses don't swim like the others. They live super deep in the ocean, like really deep, over 13,000 feet down. Instead of swimming around, they use their tentacles to crawl along the seafloor. For food, they munch on small crustaceans, worms, or whatever drifts by. They don't bother chewing though. They're more like underwater vacuums, sucking up their meals whole. Because they live so deep, we don't know a ton about them. It's hard to get down that far. So who knows what else there is to learn about these cute, floppy creatures. The telescope octopus is a rare and mysterious creature that lives deep in the ocean, typically between 500 and 6,500 feet below the surface. This little octopus grows to about 8 inches long, and its arms make up almost half of that length. It's related to the glass octopus, another deep sea species, but has some pretty unique features that set it apart. Unlike most octopuses that move around on the seafloor, the telescope octopus prefers to drift with the ocean currents. It spends most of its time suspended in the water column, hanging vertically rather than swimming horizontally like most sea creatures. This helps it stay out of sight predators since its position in the water is hard to detect. On top of that, its translucent body makes it nearly invisible. It's so see-through that it doesn't cast any shadows, making it even harder for predators to spot. But this transparency isn't just good for hiding, it also helps the octopus sneak up on its prey who can't see it coming. Probably the most recognizable part of this creature are its eyes. Unlike most octopuses, which have round eyes, the telescope octopus has long, tube-like eyes that stick out from its head. They're unmovable stalks and can rotate, giving it a wide range of vision. It's the only known octopus species with eyes that work like a telescope, allowing it to spot both predators and prey from a distance. The rest of its body is also pretty unusual and has delicate webbing between its arms and white suckers along each one. This, combined with its nearly invisible body, give it a kind of ghostly appearance as it drifts through the deep sea. Scientists don't know a lot about this octopus because it's so hard to access, but they think its transparent body and strange eyes may be due to the fact that it stays in a sort of permanent juvenile state. This means it may never fully mature, living most of its life in a form similar to larva. Next, let's talk about the barrelfish. This fish is seriously one of the weirdest creatures you'll ever see. It has a see-through head, and it's got these glowing green orbs that look like eyes, but here's the thing, those eyes are actually inside its head, under a see-through section of skin, a bit like an astronaut helmet. Super strange, right? This fish lives out in the Mariana Trench, deep where sunlight doesn't doesn't really reach. Its tubular eyes face upwards, and they can rotate, so if it was to look up and find some food floating by, it can just swivel its eyes upwards. As for its body, it's pretty sleek and streamlined, built for deep sea life. These fish were first discovered back in 1939, but it wasn't easy to study them because when they brought them up to the surface, the pressure change would just crush their bodies. But now, with remotely controlled submersibles, we can study them much more easily. Now let's talk about Osedax, aka the zombie worm. These things sound like something from a sci-fi movie, and honestly, they kinda look like it too. Also known as bone worms or bone-eating worms, these creatures are nature's cleanup crew at the very bottom of the ocean. They feed on the remains of dead whales that sink to the ocean floor. When a whale dies, its body becomes a huge buffet for different sea creatures, including zombie worms. Instead of mouths, these worms have a special trick, if you want to call it that. They secrete acid that can dissolve bone-eating acid. Then they burrow into the whale bones, which is how they get their food. And here's where it gets even cooler. Osedax worms have a partnership with bacteria. The bacteria help break down the bones, and in return, the worms offer the bacteria a nice little home. These worms come in all sorts of colors, and scientists are still discovering new types. Next on the list is the deep sea hatchetfish. This fish looks pretty cool, but also incredibly strange. Thank God these things are so small, because just imagine that horrifying face, but like the size of a whale. They look like frowning ghosts. The deep sea hatchetfish is a small fish that lives in the deep, dark parts of the ocean, like the Mariana Trench. It has a very unique hatchet-shaped body and a hatchet-like metallic color, which helps it blend in with its surroundings. And they glow. The hatchetfish can control how bright it glows, though. It uses its bioluminescence both for communicating with other fish and for attracting prey. Let's talk about the fangtooth fish next. Fangtooths are some of the scariest looking creatures you'll find in the Mariana Trench. They're small, but their teeth are absolutely massive compared to the size of their bodies. These fish have a very simple body design, a long cylindrical shape that's built for life in the deep. But what really makes them stand out is their huge, sharp teeth. In fact, their teeth are so big that when they close their mouths, the teeth don't fit all the way inside, so they just kind of stick out. Aside from their terrifying appearance, though, these fish aren't very dangerous. They feed on other small fish and invertebrates that live in the deep ocean. Again, just glad these things are about 6 inches long instead of 6 feet. Some things are just too ugly to be any bigger than they are. No offense to the fangtooths in the audience. Next on the list is the deep sea dragonfish. This creature is pretty incredible, partly because it's got some crazy bioluminescence going on. The dragonfish can produce its own light, which helps it in the pitch black depths where it lives. The light comes from these little organs called photophores that line its body. But what's even cooler is that the dragonfish has a big long chin with a light producing organ at the end of it. It uses this to lure prey right into its mouth. The dragonfish also has some seriously terrifying teeth. They look like something straight out of a monster movie. Again, might not be the biggest fish in the deep, but it definitely looks like one you'd want to avoid if you were swimming down there. Here are 3 words that don't sound very appealing placed right next to one another. Giant toxic amoebas, or GTAs. Scientists call them xenophyophores. How would you feel about running into a 4-inch long amoeba? Probably not great. These guys are found all over the Mariana Trench though, and they're huge for a reason. The extreme cold, insane pressure, and the complete lack of sunlight make the conditions perfect for these single-celled organisms to grow to pretty gigantic sizes. They're incredibly tough survivors. They've adapted to become super resistant to a bunch of harmful stuff that would kill pretty much anything else, including us humans. They can tolerate uranium, mercury, lead, and other dangerous substances which would be lethal to us. These toxic amoebas have been found at crazy depths of up to 6.5 miles or 10.6 kilometers underwater, and scientists wouldn't be shocked if they find more of them even deeper one day. And finally, we've got the Mariana snailfish, a species that was discovered in 2014 and holds the title for being the deepest living fish. It lives at nearly 27,000 feet below the surface, over 5 miles deep. The pressure down there is so intense that it would crush a human in seconds. This ghostly white fish looks soft and squishy, kind of cute, like it might even melt if you touched it, but somehow these things survive in one of the harshest, most unforgiving environments on Earth. The snailfish's body is incredibly adaptable, allowing it to survive where most other creatures wouldn't last a minute. Even though it looks delicate though, it's a top predator in its world, feasting on tiny crustaceans and other prey. Its flexible blob-like body lets it squeeze into tight spaces, hunting in places that other fish could never reach. From venomous octopuses and snails to prehistoric prehistoric creatures still lurking in the depths of the ocean today, these are terrifying sea creatures scientists fear to study. The blue-ringed octopus is one of the most fascinating but terrifying creatures in the ocean. There are 4 known species of these octopuses, and they all share one thing in common. They are highly venomous and can kill a human in just a matter of minutes. The venom they carry contains tetrodotoxin, a neurotoxin that is 1,000 times more potent than cyanide. Even more frightening is that there's no anti-venom to counteract the effects, making a bite from this octopus potentially fatal. Tetrodotoxin is spread throughout the octopus's body, not just in its venom glands, which is what makes these creatures both poisonous and venomous. The blue-ringed octopus is typically found in tropical and subtropical waters of the Indian and Pacific Oceans. They get their name from those bright blue rings on their bodies, which only appear when the octopus feels threatened or is about to unleash its deadly venom. What's especially terrifying about this species is that their bites are often painless, so you might not even know you've been bitten, but the venom works quickly, paralyzing the body and often leading to respiratory failure. The effects can be rapid, with death occurring anywhere from 24 hours to just 20 minutes after the toxin enters the body. Cone snails are fascinating creatures, and while over 1,000 species exist, there's one species in particular that you just don't want to get near: the geography cone snail. These mollusks are predatory, using specialized venom-filled teeth to paralyze their prey, which is usually small fish, invertebrates, or other snails. The geography cone snail is dangerous though. It can grow up to 6 inches or 15 centimeters long, and its venom contains more than 10,000 active compounds, which are powerful enough to paralyze and even kill humans. A sting from a geography cone snail can cause respiratory paralysis and death if not treated immediately. The venom attacks the nervous system and can lead to suffocation. Over the past 30 years, about 15 people have died from geography cone snails. These things are stealthy and fast too. Their harpoon-like teeth strike so quickly that most people don't even realize they've been stung until it's too late. When it comes to marine creatures with the potential to kill, few are as feared as the box jellyfish. These creatures are famous for their venom, which can cause paralysis, heart failure, and even death within minutes. Box jellyfish are especially dangerous in regions like northern Australia and Southeast Asia, where they're found in large numbers. The Australian box jellyfish has tentacles that can reach up to 10 feet or 3 meters long, and their bodies can grow up to 12 inches or 30 centimeters in diameter. Just one sting can inject a massive amount of venom into a victim's body. It can paralyze a person almost instantly, and if enough venom is delivered, it can lead to heart failure. There are over 50 known species of box jellyfish, but another one of the most feared is the irukandji jellyfish. These ones are much smaller, under an inch, but that's kind of what makes them so scary. Their venom is potent and can cause what's called irukandji syndrome, symptoms of which are intense pain, muscle cramping, high heart rate, and BLOOD pressure, along with fluid in the lungs. It can cause life-threatening heart complications. In Australia alone, between 50 and 100 people are hospitalized each year with irukandji syndrome, and the number of box jellyfish-related deaths, though hard to track, may be much higher than reported. The beaked sea snake is another terrifying sea creature found off the coasts of India, Australia, Africa, and the Arabian Sea. This species is considered one of the most venomous sea snakes in the world. It's part of a group of 64 species of sea snake, but the beaked sea snake stands out for its aggressive nature and incredibly potent venom. This snake's venom is so powerful that it's 8 times more toxic than that of a cobra. A mere 1.5 milligrams of its venom can kill a human. A full dose can kill up to 22. The venom contains a strong neurotoxin that causes paralysis, including paralysis of the diaphragm, which can lead to respiratory failure. Though bites from sea snakes are rare, researchers are especially wary of the beaked sea snake because it is known to be more aggressive. Most sea snake bites happen when fishers try to disentangle them from their nets. Stonefish are some of the most well-camouflaged creatures in the ocean, making them fascinating but terrifying. These fish blend in so perfectly with their surroundings, whether it's rock, coral, or the seabed, it's almost impossible to spot them. And that's precisely what makes them so dangerous. They remain perfectly still, waiting for prey to pass by, and when the moment comes, they strike, ambushing and swallowing their prey whole. But it's not just their hunting skills that makes a stonefish so terrifying. The venom in their dorsal spines is released when the fish is disturbed. If you happen to step on one, well, let's just say you'll would probably regret it. Stonefish stings are said to be excruciatingly painful and cause intense swelling in the affected limb within minutes. If the sting isn't treated, it can lead to necrosis and in some cases even death. Luckily, fatalities are rare, and immediate treatments like heat immersion, which helps to neutralize the venom, and anti-venom can help save lives. But no wonder scientists are more hesitant to study these creatures in the wild, given the risk of encountering one while out in the ocean. The pufferfish or blowfish is another sea creature with a deadly surprise. When threatened, the fish inflates itself, making it much harder for predators to swallow. Some pufferfish species even have spikes that protrude when inflated, but what makes the pufferfish so dangerous isn't the inflated body or the spines, it's the potent neurotoxin they carry inside their bodies. Tetrodotoxin is at least 1,200 times more toxic than cyanide. The toxin is concentrated in the fish's internal organs and skin, and even a small amount can be deadly. In fact, just one pufferfish can kill up to 30 adult humans. The fish's toxicity makes it highly unappealing to most predators, but in Japan, it's actually considered a delicacy. Fugu is a dish that's carefully prepared by licensed chefs who are trained to remove the toxic parts of the fish, but mistakes can happen, and when they do, the results can be fatal. Before Japan's licensing system, there were numerous deaths every year from improperly prepared fugu. Thanks to the licensing system, though, fatalities have gone down, but there's still the occasional case of food poisoning, often when people try to catch and prepare pufferfish on their own. The Titan triggerfish. Marine biologist Selena McMillan described being chased by one of these things, saying it was one of the scariest moments of her career. The Titan triggerfish is a large, colorful species of triggerfish found in coral reefs of the Indo-Pacific. These fish are known for their powerful jaws and large, sharp teeth, which are well suited for crushing hard-shelled prey like crustaceans and sea urchins. Triggerfish's teeth are unique because they're straight but incredibly thin, which makes them razor sharp. Despite their delicate appearance, they're surprisingly strong and resistant to damage. These fish are highly territorial, especially during their breeding season. They create and fiercely defend nesting sites on the ocean floor. Divers and snorkelers who may venture too close to these nesting areas may provoke an aggressive response from the triggerfish. They've been known to attack intruders, including humans, to protect their nests. They can also reach over 2 feet or 60 centimeters in length and are found in pretty shallow waters. Viperfish live in the deep, dark waters of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, usually between 200 and 5,000 feet below the surface. They're not big, but they're definitely fierce. And what makes them terrifying, aside from how damn ugly they are, is the glow they emit from their body. This bioluminescent light is like a built-in lure to attract other fish, tricking them into getting close enough for the viperfish to snap its jaws shut on them. Even though it's not massive, the viperfish is a brutal predator, and scientists are fascinated by these things, but a little scared of studying it because it lives in some of the most extreme depths. And getting close enough to study it also means diving into some pretty dangerous waters. Next up, we have the oceanic white-tipped shark. These sharks are adapted to life in the open ocean and are often found far from shore, making encounters with humans pretty rare, and that's probably for the best. In terms of behavior, the oceanic white-tipped shark has a reputation of being aggressive, especially in situations where it associates humans with potential food sources. And because they live out in the middle of the ocean, they take whatever food they can get. They're opportunistic hunters. To make matters worse, these sharks are very unpredictable. They can switch from seemingly calm or indifferent to aggressive at the drop of a hat. The frilled shark looks like it came straight from the age of the dinosaurs. Often called a living fossil, this creature is an ancient species that's been around for over 150 million years. It has a long eel-like body with a head that almost looks like a snake, and its mouth is packed with all these sharp, backward-facing teeth. The frilled shark can grow up to 6.5 feet long, but the most terrifying thing about it is its feeding style. It's able to lunge forward and swallow prey whole using its long, needle-like teeth to trap it. It hangs out in deep waters, often between 200 and 500 feet below the surface. Scientists rarely get a chance to study them up close. The deep, dark waters they live in are hard to reach, and any research that involves these sharks comes with serious risks. Getting a good look at a frilled shark in its natural habitat is a dangerous undertaking. Because of that, there's still a lot we don't know about this eerie, prehistoric predator.
Deep-sea monsters that should have never existed, to bizarre glowing organisms crawling crawling along our ocean floors. And not to mention, a terrifying ancient species of sharks with snapping jaws. The siphonophore is a crazy piece of work to which some of them can grow the length of a blue whale. They take the cake for the largest creature on Earth and can reach up to 150 feet in length. With a total of 175 species of this kind, they are scattered through all the Earth's oceans. But that doesn't mean you'll find any species in any part. Some are found in the waters of Portugal, nicknamed the man o' war for how venomous it is. Despite this alien-looking thing looking like a singular animal, it's actually a colony of individual organisms called zooids. Each zooid has their own specific function for survival, but are genetically identical to each other. Some will focus on feeding and digesting, while others focus on movement, swimming, or reproducing. Since zooids cannot survive on their own as a singular, they band together and depend on each other's help as they form a body. How this works is that a first singular zooid is hatched from a fertilized egg, and then once it develops its growth hormones, it then begins to create more zooids with itself. Nasty, wicked cool. These three submarine divers got a lovely surprise from a visit of a deep sea female shark. This video is more phenomenal than scary, as it starts out with the shark rolling around on the ocean floor, causing an immense amount of debris to fly around the submarine. When she emerges from this though, they get an amazing shot of her going over with prey in her mouth, really showcasing how large this girl is. Everyone in the submarine is just in awe, rightfully so. She then starts to take a huge interest in the machine, coming up closer again as she observes the submarine, checking out some of the gadgets it has, even trying to nibble at some of them. My favorite shot from this video, however, is when they get a clear image of her eye. How many of you can say you've made eye contact with a shark? It even rolls to the back of her head as she swims away. This lovely lady is known as the blunt-nosed six-gill shark, or the cow shark if you want to be mean about it. They are, sadly, listed as near threatened by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, because they are often exploited as a sport fish due to their popularity. The vampire squid. No, sorry, it doesn't drink the blood of its prey, but rather it was given the name because of its lovely dark red or jet black color. You can find these little guys anywhere in the tropical oceans and temperate waters, if you're willing to travel down 2,000 or 3,000 feet below. Despite only being able to grow up to 12 inches in length, these guys can projectile themselves the length of 2 bodies per second by spraying a jet of water through their mantle. They were first discovered by Carl Chun in 1903, who had an ambition to prove there was sea life past 550 meters below. If only he were here today. They have 8 arms that are connected by webbing, and are able to regenerate if they get into a bit of a scuffle with other sea life. Half of these 8 arms are covered in suckers, and also have small hairs on these legs as well to help detect their prey. It has to wait for food to come out, since it sadly doesn't have feeding tentacles like other cephalopods, but thankfully only needs to eat twice a week. Their eyes are also considered to be the largest in comparison to their body size of any animal in the world. Sometimes marine life doesn't really care and will in fact attack your equipment. An extremely rare bioluminescence deep sea squid, known as the Dana octopus squid, was caught going in for a researcher's camera thinking it was food. The footage was caught with only being below by 1 kilometer down, and all that the crew was really aiming for was to observe the biodiversity of the sea floor. This squid is one of the largest known deep sea squids, with this specific one being 75 centimeters long, just under a meter, but can grow up to 7 feet in length. One of the scientists stated, descended on our camera assuming it was prey and tried to startle it with its huge bioluminescence headlights. It then proceeded to wrap its arms around one of our other cameras, which in turn captured the encounter in even greater detail. I think we were very lucky to have witnessed this. This squid is not only popular for its size, but rather the photophores it produces, making it the largest light source known to be in the sea as of right now. Truly beautiful, yet terrifying at the same time. This video was taken in the Gulf of Mexico with an ROV, a remotely operated vehicle that most underwater explorers used when they're exploring the deep blue sea. It's a little grainy, but we can still make out some sort of jellyfish-like creature making a very creepy appearance. I'm not sure what the researchers were doing in this video with the box, but as they pull away, some crazy looking tentacle creature makes its way over to it in a rather aggressive manner. If it is a jellyfish, it's definitely not one I've ever seen before. Its body is circular from one angle, but as it rotates we see that it's actually completely flat rather than spherical. Going through the comments, people seem to agree that it's what's known as a clinging jellyfish, and are usually found in the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. We don't have to worry about seeing them at beaches though, since they prefer a more calm and solitude environment. The internet is going crazy trying to decipher what type of jellyfish this is. Majority are saying that this is a comb jellyfish, but its odd shape at the beginning, looking very alien-like, has people fighting one another in the comments section. But as I further read into comb jellyfish, they might just be correct. Some are known to have round bellies and even tentacles like the one in this video has, but also makes them a part of a different family than the average jellyfish. They get their names because they use these things called cilia, which are little hair extensions on their body that help them swim, and also give the appearance of a brush and comb. It's really hard to see it in the one on this video, especially with its deep black color, but we do get a moment of the comb jelly lighting up in a rainbow effect, which the cilias along with its body are producing. They do this when they are obviously threatened. I mean, I would too if I had a giant submarine camera in my face. In the end of this video, people also argued if it was accidentally torn to shreds or it produced its own ink. I believe the latter because this species of jellyfish can ink as well. A weird crossbreed of jellyfish and squid. These freaky little guys are found all over the world, ranging from the tropics all the way to the poles, but surprisingly not in fresh water. The deep sea lizardfish, one of the world's deepest living apex predators. These guys are ruthless because not only will they just eat about anything, they won't hesitate to nibble on someone they know. They are also hermaphrodites, having both male and female parts, to which scientists are speculating that it's because of their low population. However, when they do breed, they seem to have a maximum cap at how many they will produce, keeping just enough to have the species thrive, but not over the top to where finding food becomes an issue. Interesting. There really isn't that much known about these fish, as they just typically like to hang around on the ocean floors, going as far deep as 3,500 meters. They will literally just sit on the ocean floor as they wait for their prey to come by, trapping them with multiple rows of extremely sharp and long needle-like teeth. Maybe it's because this video was taken in 1998, but the eerie blue lighting does not help its case, making it all the more terrifying as its glowing eyes glare right back at you. The Goblin shark, also nicknamed the most unhinged, ugliest creature to ever exist. Sorry, that was personal. These crazy looking things are found in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, but the most common sightings are off the coast of Japan. One cool thing about them is that they are living fossils from over 100 million years ago. They come from the family Mitsukurinidae and are the only living representative that comes from that ancient lineage. They also have some pink coloring on them due to their translucent skin, making their blood the reason why they give off such a pretty color. And much like humans and our eyes, they grow into their noses, so they are born with quite the big honker until they reach adulthood. The reason why they're on this list though is because of how they eat. When they come up to their prey, their jaw literally unhinges and launches forward, its skin stretching as it reaches out to eat its meal. Thankfully though, these are found deep below the surface, as deep as 4,300 feet, one even being recorded at exactly 4,490 feet below. The adults usually like to hang far below more than the younger generation.
The deep sea is full of mysteries, and deep sea cameras have captured some truly eerie footage. From glowing creatures to strange underwater phenomena, these chilling discoveries will leave you questioning what's lurking beneath the surface. Join us as we dive into the creepiest footage ever recorded from the depths of the ocean. Number 10. Fangtooth. With a name like Fangtooth, you know this deep sea predator means business. Discovered by the brilliant team at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, or MBARI for short, they're the go-to crew for these mind-blowing deep sea finds. These fish haunt the inky depths of the Mariana Trench, often lurking around 1,700 feet below the surface, so you don't have to worry about bumping into them anytime soon. Honestly, let's just hope that they stay down there. That's the main goal here. Their name comes from their most defining feature, their massive teeth. In fact, their teeth are the largest in proportion to body size of any fish in the ocean. They're so big that fangtooths have special pockets in the roofs of their mouths just to store them. Yeah, they have stored goods, and it's their teeth. This allows their jaws to actually be able to close. Described by Mbari researchers as having a face only a mother could love, harsh but fair, the fang tooth compensates for its poor eyesight with a unique hunting style. See, instead of stalking its prey, it senses vibrations in the water, blindly bumping into its next meal. Yeah, this thing fights like Daredevil. And with those chompers, who needs precision? Let's be honest. Number 9. Gran Rojo jellyfish. First discovered in the mid-90s, the Gran Rojo jellyfish wasn't officially recognized as a new species until 2003, leaving scientists scratching their heads for 13 years straight. What are we looking at? What did we just find? Its discovery wasn't just groundbreaking, it also introduced an entirely new subfamily to marine biology. Pretty impressive. Originally nicknamed Big Ugly, also a bit harsh, it eventually earned the more fitting name of Big Red. Gran Rojo is the largest known sea jelly with a bell that can reach up to 76 centimeters in diameter. Instead of the long, delicate tentacles that we associate with jellyfish, these creatures sport 4 to 7 thick, fleshy arms. Yeah, they don't have tentacles, they have arms. Terrifying. Their vibrant red hue sets them apart from their usual transparent jellies, making them even more striking. Now, due to their deep sea habitat, much about Gran Rojo remains a mystery. Only 23 individuals have ever been documented, but researchers are working hard to uncover more about this elusive giant of ocean depths. Number 8. Barrel eye fish. This bizarre creature looks like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Meet the barrel eye fish, also fittingly known as the spookfish. They're so strange they could double as Halloween decorations. I mean, look at this thing. The real showstopper here is their huge tubular eyes, encased inside of a transparent dome-like head made of soft tissue. Yeah, it looks like an alien. It looks like you're peeking into their thoughts. I mean, if fish had thoughts. Because their fragile bodies can't handle changes in pressure, they must stay in the depths where they belong. Barrel eye fish hang around 800 meters deep, drifting motionlessly with their eerie alien vibe. Absolutely otherworldly. Check it out. Number 7. The vampire squid. The vampire squid is the sole survivor of its order, a fascinating blend of squid and octopus, making it a strong contender for the most menacing deep sea creature on our list today. And with a name like vampire squid, you know it means business. Like a jellyfish, its gelatinous body allows it to glide effortlessly through the ocean depths, but the real kicker, it's covered in light-producing organs called photophores, which it uses to unleash disorienting flashes, basically a vampire disco, in order to confuse its prey. Instead of ink, it ejects bioluminescent mucus, which is a glowing sticky defense that's arguably even creepier than just ink. And if that's not enough, the vampire squid can regenerate its arms. So if you ever find yourself up against one, I hope you brought a spare arm or two because you're gonna need it. Number 6. Predatory tunicate. The predatory tunicate is like the Venus flytrap of the deep seas, and it's just as eerie to watch. These unique creatures start life swimming like tadpoles until they find the perfect spot along a canyon wall or a seafloor. Once settled in, they use a natural adhesive to anchor themselves and undergo a dramatic transformation, staying in place for the rest of their lives. Yeah, they're picky about their home, needing the right water chemistry and temperature to, well, allow them to survive. If moved, well, they won't be able to stay alive anymore. So if you see it, hands off, okay? These tunicates patiently wait for food to drift by, snapping their mouths shut like a Venus flytrap when a meal comes along. Interestingly, they're also studied for their potential in treating serious medical conditions. Yeah, it's like, it could solve a lot of problems, but we can't touch it, so, Number 5. Snapping shrimp. I have to include the sounds from a snapping shrimp because I always see those guys pop up on Reddit when I'm scrolling in the dead of night. Snapping shrimp pack the hardest punch. They look nice, they look really chill and lovely, but they'll hit you before you even blink. Yeah, Will Smith style, super fast. Its punch is so powerful that it creates a sonic boom underwater. These shrimp hit their prey at 100 kilometers per hour, and in doing so, a large air bubble is created, and because of this Mike Tyson shrimp, it's actually so quick with the right hook that the following pop that you hear afterwards is around 200 decibels. So should the mantis shrimp miss that first hit, well, the sound alone is going to stun their prey. Or if they're lucky, it'll sometimes end their life just like that. Number 4, the long-armed squid. Also known as the big fin squid, this is rarely seen, and honestly, thank goodness, because they're unbelievably freaky to look at. Found in oceans worldwide, they lurk in the dark depths around 4,000 feet below the surface. On November 11th, 2007, an ROV captured footage of one of them in the Gulf of Mexico. These elusive creatures are believed to grow up to 23 feet long. And that creepy still stance that they do, no thanks, I'm not a fan. I'm a long-armed human, and I'm not a fan of the long-armed squid. Sorry, there can only be one of us, alright? Number 3, giant isopods. Big nope on this one, okay? First thing to know about me, I can't handle deep sea anything, especially not this. Just look at these giant isopods and tell me that your palms aren't sweating. These massive crustaceans can grow up to 15 inches long. Not the biggest deep sea creature by far, but still terrifying in the bug world. They're fast swimmers and they can latch onto you. Yeah, I'm never swimming again. Their size comes from deep sea gigantism, an evolutionary trend where deep sea creatures grow way bigger than their shallow water cousins. Scientists think that it may be due to cold temperatures that increase cell size, and of course their lifespan continues to go as well. Giant isopods are scavengers, scuttling over with their many creepy legs just to feast on leftovers from other predators in their battle. Just imagining one of these barreling towards me, ugh, no thank you, I'm out, let's move on. Number 2, deep sea anglerfish. Deep sea anglerfish have one of the most bizarre mating strategies in the animal kingdom. Okay, what happens is when a male finds his mate, he'll literally attach to her for life, and I mean that, forever. Male anglerfish are tiny compared to their females, you know, no hunting, no heavy lifting, all that stuff. Their only mission is to find a female, bite into her belly, and then fuse their bodies together. Talk about clingy. Their skin melds, their bloodstreams merge, and they live as one organism. Just a few years ago, researchers captured this rare footage of a mating pair. The males are parasitic, surviving entirely on nutrients from the female's blood. Their whole life is about latching on to a leading lady to handle all the hard work, while they just kick back and hold on tight and enjoy the ride. But hey, looking at that little guy, it's very clear that hunting was never going to be his strong suit. Hope you find a partner to latch onto. And finally, number 1, the Gulf of Mexico shipwreck. The Gulf of Mexico is a watery graveyard for shipwrecks, with over 4,000 scattered across its depths. Now, when you steal buckets of gold and try and escape on a dinghy, I mean, odds are you're probably gonna sink. So when Exxon oil workers discovered a sunken ship 3,000 feet below the waves, excitement ran high. They quickly alerted the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which set out to investigate the wreck. But from the start, the mission seemed cursed. Yeah, in a video about footage, what happens when we can't get any footage? Equipment repeatedly failed, the submersible intended for the dive malfunctioned right before deployment, and video feeds and sonar systems kept cutting out all the time unexpectedly. Even when the Navy got involved with the research sub, nothing worked at all. No equipment. The robotic arms were too small and they couldn't properly explore the wreck. So there was something about that ship that didn't want to be disturbed or even filmed.
See what a 500-year-old shark looks like up close. Watch what happens when a gigantic flashing squid tries to attack a submersible, and what exactly is this unidentified object whizzing through the water. These are some of the scariest deep-sea creatures caught on camera by submarines. What are we looking at here? When I first saw this thumbnail, I thought this was a fishing net, but no, this is some kind of living organism. This incredible piece of footage was shared by Tahoe Deep on YouTube. The creature is some kind of siphonophore, a class of marine animals that contains 175 species that we know of anyway. As for exactly what species this one is, we're not sure. From what I've seen, siphonophores can look vastly different between species. What we do know is that this video was captured in the Gulf of Mexico, about 4,000 feet deep, or just over 1,219 meters deep. I've never seen a creature like this in my life. It reminds me of one of those old school iTunes visualizers or like Windows screensavers, where you'd have like a trippy animation going on, kinda. A very odd, obscure reference, but I'm sure some of you will get it. Sperm whales and giant squids, some of the largest animals in the ocean. Footage of either is incredible to see, but how about the aftermath of a battle between the two? This footage was shared by EcoWatch Discovery Mauritius. As you can clearly see, a group of whales are coming back from a hunt, and one of them has the remains of a giant squid in its mouth. Getting up closer, you can see that its tentacle is still wrapped around the whale. It's pretty incredible footage. It's rare to see video of giant squids at all, let alone one in the mouth of a massive sized sperm whale. Turns out these animals fight a lot. They're both huge predators that are often locked in battles for survival. Based on this footage, I'd be placing my bets on these sperm whales. At our number 3 spot, we have the Mariana Trench Meg. Now, this video is very much genuine, and I just find it really creepy. The idea of being lost deep beneath the sea and having this nasty thing creep up on you is pretty spine-tingling. This footage here was shared to YouTube by Deep Sea Oddities. It shows footage taken by equipment from a Japanese marine biology study about a mile underwater in the Mariana Trench. We see a really creepy looking shark swim into frame. It almost looks like a zombie shark or something to me. Nothing cute about this guy. I just kind of cringe watching the footage actually. It just gets too close to the camera for comfort, you know? Now apparently that's a baited cage in the frame there that it's swimming up to, which makes this shark pretty damn large. It doesn't look like it's been missing any meals. All I can say is I'm glad we don't live in the world of SeaQuest. Bet you weren't expecting to see a SeaQuest reference on this video. Now it turns out this creepy looking creature is actually called a Greenland shark. Here's another footage of a Greenland shark. Definitely an eerie looking animal, but incredibly fascinating. First off, these things are huge. One of the largest sharks in the ocean. They can grow up to about 21 feet or 6.4 meters long, sometimes more, and they can weigh over 2,200 pounds. Already terrifying. But here's the part that totally blows my mind. These sharks can live incredibly long. In fact, they're the longest living known vertebrate on Earth, with a lifespan of 250 to 500 years. That means there could be a Greenland shark out there right now that was alive well before the United States was founded. As for what they eat, they're apex predators. They hunt fish, seals, and basically whatever they can find. They live in some seriously deep water, around 650 to 3,000 feet down, and sometimes even deeper. So they've been difficult animals to study and are rarely ever seen. Take a look at this strange object flying by the camera. Just what the hell was that? This is a very strange video. It was captured by a remotely operated vehicle back in 2002 off the coast of Senriku, Japan. The thing passes by way too fast to determine what it is. It's not even clear if this is a living creature or some kind of object. What we're looking at here could be a USO, an unidentified submerged object. It's sleek looking, almost like a disc, and it's incredibly bright, so much you can't make out any detail on it, if there even is any at all. So could this just be a ray of light? Well, it doesn't appear to be, for one. I mean, it does look like a solid object or organism. Plus, this footage was taken 421 meters down, or just over 1,381 feet. Not super deep, but enough that some ray of light from above wouldn't penetrate the water like this. According to the NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, light may be detected as far as 1,000 meters down in the ocean, but there is rarely any significant light beyond 200 meters. So, was this just a very fast fish or something else entirely? This is a really cool piece of footage. Just what is this creature attacking this submersible? The footage was taken at a depth of around 1,280 meters, or 4,200 feet. Something had clearly tried to latch onto the vehicle. As for what it is, well, we get a better look moments later. What you're looking at here is a flasher squid. Not much of a mystery why it's called a flasher squid. They have two photophores at the tips of their heads that flash. These are one of the largest squids in the world and are among the biggest known bioluminescent creatures on Earth, reaching lengths of up to 7.5 feet or 2.3 meters. They're very rarely spotted, which just makes this footage even more incredible. This deep sea diver was bitten by a shark, but an unlikely ally came to his rescue. Take a look. Here we see a shark latched on to this dude's leg. Now, luckily it's a very small shark, but I don't think there's any such thing as a good or even okay shark attack. Nobody wants this. Attached to the small shark though is a grouper, much bigger than the shark. Was the grouper just glad to find an easy meal? Yeah, but I'd like to believe that it saw an innocent man being attacked and swooped in to help. Then we watch as it pulls the shark off the diver and swims into the shadows to enjoy its meal. Now this is an absolute beast of a creature. This is a blunt-nosed 6-gill shark captured on video in 2019, but if I didn't know any better, based on that tail, I'd think it was the Loch Ness Monster. So OceanX, in partnership with Cape Eleuthera Institute and a team of scientists, managed to make history by tagging a deep-sea shark from a submarine for the very first time. They were after a pretty elusive creature, the blunt-nosed 6-gill shark. This shark is ancient, really ancient. It's been around longer than most dinosaurs. The lead scientist on the mission was Dr. Dean Grubbs from the Florida State University's Marine Lab. He's been working on studying these sharks for years, but until now, the only way to tag one was by bringing it up to the surface. Not exactly the most ideal way to track an animal that spends its life in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. But this time, they did something no one had done before. They managed to tag the creature while it was still deep underwater using a submarine. It's a huge step forward in studying these deep-sea predators, and now they have a way to track their movements without disturbing their environment too much. Pretty amazing and an absolutely wild piece of footage. What you're looking at here is not the tripod alien from War of the Worlds. This is a Magnapina squid, or a big fin squid, captured in the Central Pacific Ocean back in 2019 at a depth of 1,092 meters or 3,582 feet, courtesy of the Schmidt Ocean Institute. Big fin squids are just nuts looking. As you can see, its arms and tentacles are way longer than its body. They can stretch out 13 to 26 feet or 4 to 8 meters. These things also move in a really weird way. It doesn't really swim like other squids, darting through the water with speed. Instead, it sort of floats along with its arms stretched out, almost like it's just hovering or gliding. And since it lives so far down, way deeper than most submarines can reach, these creatures are hard to study. That's why not much is known about them. But whenever it's caught on camera, it always leaves people a little freaked out. It's not just the long arms, it's the way it moves and just how generally alien it looks. Alright, now this creature wasn't filmed by a submarine, but it was just too creepy looking not to show. So apparently this horrid looking monster is called a purple eel gobby. Now at first I thought this was a creature with multiple heads, which would have been awesome. That is not the case though, sadly. This is just a group of them gathered together. Still though, these things look like they crawled out of the upside down. They also look like they'd crawl into your body and eat you from the inside, but luckily they're more interested in small fish and crustaceans.
There's an entire universe of creatures lurking far below our feet, surviving where no sunlight can reach. Today we're diving into the deepest parts of our ocean to uncover ancient sea monsters that still roam beneath the crushing pressure and freezing waters, holding secrets that date back millions of years. It's time to meet these living fossils face to face. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the giant squid. There is a colossal predator lurking in the deepest corners of the ocean, a creature with tentacles that can stretch longer than a school bus and eyes the size of dinner plates. The giant squid is no myth. This towering cephalopod hunts in frigid darkness, patrolling underwater canyons while dodging the jaws of sperm whales. Its massive arms, covered in powerful suction cups, can snatch unsuspecting prey in a heartbeat. For centuries, old sailors returned from long voyages telling wild stories of enormous, tentacled monsters dragging ships into the depths. No one believed them until recently, when modern cameras finally captured these real-life leviathans gliding through their pitch-black world. From deep-sea explorers to seasoned marine biologists, everyone agrees. The giant squid is as close to the legendary kraken as we'll ever get, and it's still out there, thriving in places we can barely reach. Next, we are talking about sea spiders. There's something crawling around in the black, crushing depths of Earth's oceans that look more like it belongs on another planet. Sea spiders, with their ridiculously long legs and minuscule, almost comically small bodies. These guys have been skittering about for over 500 million years. That's a timeline stretching way before fish, dinosaurs, and even plants on land. They're not true spiders, but there's an alien elegance to how they hover over the ocean floor, their spindly limbs reaching out in all directions, as if they're trying to find a hold in the endless darkness. Scientists have found them in every major ocean, existing under pressure that would crush most creatures, all while barely changing from their fossilized ancestors. It is a genuine glimpse into a bygone era, a reminder that life down there has perfected the art of survival without the need for constant reinvention. In our number 8 spot today, we have the vampire squid. There is a crimson-shaped cephalopod drifting through near black waters that seems ripped straight from some ancient, forbidden legend. The vampire squid, thriving around 3,000 feet below the surface in low oxygen zones most creatures can't tolerate, is more than just a flashy name. Its glowing red eyes pierce the darkness, while its umbrella-like webbing and bioluminescent organs twist and shimmer with ghostly light. Neither fully squid nor fully octopus, it pulls traits from both worlds, resulting in a bizarre hybrid that's unlike anything else in the deep. Scientists have marveled at how this gentle scavenger, feeding mostly on marine snow rather than attacking prey, survives under crushing pressure and near freezing temperatures, all while looking like it just swam off the pages of some ancient myth. Every glimpse we get from cameras and submersibles leaves us more convinced that the vampire squid stands as a living relic of a time when Earth was was wilder, darker, and far stranger than we ever dared to believe. Next, we are talking about the chambered nautilus. The chambered nautilus is a living relic from an era long gone, but it is still here, lurking in the deep waters of the Indo-Pacific. This mesmerizing shelled cephalopod looks like it belongs in a prehistoric aquarium, sporting a spiral-shaped shell reminiscent of ammonites that roamed the seas during the age of dinosaurs. But what makes this creature truly extraordinary is that despite millions of years of evolution around it, the nautilus has barely changed at all. It's like a time traveler from Earth's ancient oceans, left practically untouched for over 500 million years. With its elegant translucent shell and a series of chambers that allow it to regulate buoyancy, the nautilus seems to float through the water like a living fossil. Scientists marvel at how this creature has survived the countless changes on Earth, making it one of nature's most fascinating and enduring mysteries. How does something evolve so little amid a world that constantly turns and transforms? The chambered nautilus isn't just a survivor, it's a symbol of the ancient world that's still, quite literally, swimming amongst us. Next, we are talking about the giant isopod. There's a massive, armored scavenger roaming the pitch black depths of our oceans that looks like a pill bug on steroids. Giant isopods, stretching up to 20 inches long, live more than 7,000 feet below the surface in both the Atlantic and Pacific, thriving where nearly every other life form struggles to survive. They belong to the same ancient lineage as trilobites, crawling across the sea floor long before the first humans took a breath. These deep-sea tanks feed on sunken whale carcasses and other debris drifting down from above, filling their armored bellies and then going for months, or even years, without another meal. Their design has been so successful that they've barely changed over countless millennia, quietly minding their business and waiting in the darkness as history unfolds above. There's nothing fancy or flashy about their existence, yet their very survival at such crushing depths stands as a testament to just how stubborn and resilient life on Earth can be. In our number 5 spot today, we have the 6-gill shark. Hidden in the darkest corners of Earth's oceans, there's a shark so ancient it might as well have swum alongside the very first dinosaurs. The 6-gill shark hovers at around 6,000 feet below the surface, slowly patrolling waters where daylight has long since vanished. With its distinctive extra gill slits, one more set than your typical modern sharks, it sports features that date back to the Jurassic, when massive marine reptiles ruled the sea. This heavyweight predator can reach lengths of up to 16 feet, yet remains elusive, steering clear of our curiosity by lurking deep beyond most human reach. Over millions of years, it's barely changed at all, hanging on to design elements that worked perfectly before mammals even appeared on land. Knowing that this silent, time-worn sentinel cruises through pitch-black water, still wielding the ancient blueprint of its ancestors, adds another layer of mystery to the hidden world beneath the waves. Next, we are talking about the colossal squid. There's a beast haunting the frigid darkness around Antarctica that dwarfs even the legendary giant squid and wields razor-sharp hooks on swiveling tentacles. The colossal squid thrives thousands of feet below the ice-covered seas of the Southern Ocean, where crushing pressure and bitter cold would make most creatures crumble. It's been spotted only a handful of times, each encounter raising more questions than answers. Its eyes are the largest of any animal on Earth, peering through pitch-black waters in search of prey. Scientists have tried to study it, hauling up a few rare specimens, but even these are often damaged or incomplete, leaving us with only half-understood hints of its true nature. Every scrap of data, every blurry image adds to the legend of this elusive giant. For now, the colossal squid remains one of the ocean's most tantalizing mysteries, a hulking survivor from a time when monsters still roamed the planet's last untouched frontiers. Next, we are talking about the lanternfish. There is a hidden force thriving in the ocean's twilight zone that quietly rules the deep. Lanternfish, which make up about 65% of the biomass down there, have been shining their tiny lights for millions of years, long before humans came into the picture. They hover between 650 and 3,300 feet, well below the sunlight's reach, using their bioluminescent organs like headlights to navigate through darkness thick as ink. These shimmering schools are everywhere, darting through the shadows, feeding on microscopic prey, and supplying a crucial food source to countless predators. Over endless millennia, they haven't needed to evolve a flashier look or a tougher exterior, just their gentle glow and steady resilience were enough enough to keep them going. It's a subtle brand of power, the quiet domination of the deep, reminding us that some of the most successful life forms on the planet never needed to become giant monsters. They just had to survive where few others dared to live. In our number 2 spot today, we're talking about chimeras or ghost sharks. Meet the chimera, often called a ghost shark, an eerie cartilaginous fish that split from traditional sharks well over 400 million years ago. That's way before the first dinosaurs stomped across land. With venomous spines jutting from their backs and a ghostly, almost translucent appearance, these deep-sea survivors glide through the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans as if reading from an ancient script. They've barely changed while continents collided, species rose and fell, and entire ecosystems rearranged themselves. Their timeless bodies reveal a story in which evolution found a perfect balance and simply paused, leaving these strange, silent predators to wander the ocean floor long after the world above had remade itself 1,000 times over. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the bristlemouth fish. There is a creature down in the crushing darkness that outnumbers almost every other vertebrate on the planet, yet most people have never even heard of it. Bristlemouth fish, found drifting silently beyond 3,000 feet deep, are tiny masters of survival that have barely changed for millions of years. Their jaws are studded with needle-sharp teeth designed to devour whatever drifts their way, while their bodies glow with eerie photophores, sending faint signals through water blacker than ink. No one knows exactly how many trillions of these little predators roam the depths, but scientists believe their population dwarfs most other animal groups. They've quietly built an empire at crushing pressures, feeding on morsels of plankton and marine snow, all without ever needing to tweak their ancient design. It's definitely a humbling thought. These unassuming, toothy survivors run the deep sea show, thriving for eons where countless other species would simply crumble.
A shrimp with a punch so powerful it can break glass and cause shock waves in the water. A shark so aggressively hungry it'll eat just about anything. And one of the most venomous creatures in the entire world. These are some of the scariest deep-sea predators caught on camera. Look at this diver being stalked by a tiger shark. The tiger shark is one of the most dangerous deep-sea predators out there. It's known for its aggressiveness and the fact that it'll eat pretty much anything it can catch, from fish to sea turtles to even garbage. They're often called the garbage cans of the sea because of how indiscriminate their eating habits are. Tiger sharks can grow up to 18 feet long, and their jaws are packed with serrated teeth, perfect for slicing through tough materials like turtle shells. They've been known to attack humans, but their bites are usually just curious nibbles. Even so, they're big, they're powerful. If one got it in its head that it wanted to try tearing you apart, it absolutely could. So it's not a good idea to mess with one. In terms of habitat, tiger sharks are found in tropical and subtropical waters, often in deeper spots where there's plenty of food around. Mantis shrimp are absolutely terrifying little creatures, even though they're not that big. These crustaceans have one of the fastest and most powerful strikes in the animal kingdom. Footage of their punches needs to be slowed down in order to truly appreciate. Their limbs are capable of moving at speeds of 50 miles per hour, faster than a bullet leaving a firearm. They can smash open shells, break glass, they can knock fish unconscious or just kill them in an instant. In some cases, their strikes are so powerful they can create shock waves in the water. And it sounds like I'm making this part up, but the punch from a mantis shrimp can even generate light, creating this flash so intense that it can stun smaller prey. So yeah, they don't look all that intimidating. They're small, and they're also shrimp, but these are incredibly dangerous hunters. They can take out much larger and stronger animals with their anime-level power blows. Lizardfish, as you can probably tell, are not the cutest looking animal. They're known for having a pretty nightmarish predatory appearance with sharp teeth and eerie lizard-like faces. These creatures are built for hunting in the deep, dark waters, where there's barely any light and food can be tough to find. Lizardfish are experts at lurking on the ocean floor, blending in so well that unsuspecting fish don't usually see them coming. With their long, sharp teeth, they're great at grabbing and holding on to any prey that gets too close. They can grow up to around 3 feet long, and while sure they may not be the largest predators, their aggressiveness and lightning-fast attacks makes them pretty threatening. They're also known for their viciousness, tearing into their prey with with a speed that's hard to see in real time. Look at this huge hammerhead swing right up to a beach. Lucky no one was in the water when this guy showed up. Hammerhead sharks might look a little strange with their wide T-shaped heads, but make no mistake, they're incredibly efficient predators. That bizarre head shape they have gives them a full 360-degree view of their surroundings, and you probably don't need me to tell you that that's a big advantage. If you're anywhere near one of these things, they most likely see you. Hammerheads usually hunt in deeper waters, where they can use their enhanced vision to locate stingrays and other bottom-dwelling creatures. Their heads are also loaded with sensors that help them detect electric fields made by prey in the water, so they can detect and spot prey very efficiently, but we haven't even talked about their other assets yet: size, strength, and teeth. Some species like the great hammerhead can grow over 20 feet long, and their powerful jaws are capable of crushing bones and tearing through tough hide. Sperm whales are the giants of the deep ocean, and while they're not necessarily a threat to humans, they are one of the most dangerous predators to other deep-sea creatures. First of all, they're the largest toothed predators on Earth. They can grow up to 60 feet long. They mostly hunt squid, and that includes giant and colossal squid. Using echolocation, sperm whales can hunt prey in total darkness, deep beneath the waves. They can dive to depths of over 3,000 feet and stay submerged for over an hour, making them the ultimate deep-sea hunters. I mentioned that they hunt giant squid. Well, giant squid and sperm whales are pretty much arch enemies, constantly at war. They have fierce battles with squid, using their massive jaws and powerful teeth to tear them apart. But it's not like the giant squids don't fight back. They'll try to overwhelm the whales by wrapping their tentacles around them. I think the whales usually get the upper hand though. Humans rarely interact with sperm whales in the wild, but they're dangerous to anything they consider food. Their strength and intelligence makes them one of the most terrifying predators in the ocean, capable of overpowering almost anything in their path. Barracudas might not be as large as some of the other predators on this list, but they make up for it with lightning speed and sheer aggression. They're known for their fearsome sharp teeth, and they're some of the fastest fish in the ocean, able to reach speeds of up to 36 miles per hour. Barracudas are solitary hunters, and they don't hesitate to attack when they see prey. They're often found in deeper waters, where their speed and stealth allows them to ambush fish and smaller marine creatures. Barracuda's sleek, streamlined body is built for these quick strikes, and when they attack, they're usually just this blur of motion. They've been known to target fish much larger than themselves too, and they can also pose a threat to humans, especially if they feel threatened or they get startled. The great white shark, I mean, they need no introduction. It's probably the most iconic and feared predator of the ocean. Growing up to 20 feet long and weighing over 5,000 pounds, these sharks are apex predators. Very few creatures mess with them. They're built for the hunt, using their crazy speed, strength, and those razor-sharp teeth to take down their prey. When they strike, it's with terrifying power. Their bite is one of the strongest in the animal kingdom, strong enough to crush bone and tear through flesh like it's nothing. While great whites are often called man-eaters, they usually bite humans out of curiosity, not because they're looking for a meal. But people who are lucky enough to survive an encounter are usually left with missing limbs. Their massive size, their incredible power, their hunting skills, it makes them one of the most dangerous creatures in the ocean. Killer whales, or orcas, are not only some of the smartest predators in the ocean, they're also some of the most dangerous. They live in tight-knit groups or pods and work together to hunt all kinds of big prey: sharks, seals, even other whales. One of the most impressive things they do is hunt great whites. Yes, I said great whites don't have many natural enemies. Killer whales are one of them. Orcas will attack them by flipping them over, which puts the shark into a state of paralysis. Then they'll just go for the liver. Orcas are also great at hunting in deeper water, using echolocation to find their prey and communicate with each other to pull off some very impressive coordinated attacks. There are many different species of box jellyfish, and some of them are among the most venomous creatures in the world. They're mostly found off the coast of Australia and Southeast Asia, and their sting is so powerful it can cause heart failure in humans. Their tentacles have toxins capable of paralyzing or even killing their prey, which includes fish, crustaceans, and small marine mammals. The venom is so powerful, it only takes a brief encounter with one to be lethal. And to make things even worse, their bodies are nearly transparent, making them incredibly incredibly hard to spot in the water. If you're not careful, you may not be able to spot one before it's too late. The anglerfish is probably one of the most unsettling creatures you'll find in the deep sea. This fish is known for its horrifying appearance, with a very grotesque face, sharp teeth, and huge mouths that kinda look too big for their bodies, and that eerie bioluminescent lure that hangs in front of their heads like a fishing line. They use it to draw in prey from the pitch black depths of the ocean, tricking unsuspecting creatures into getting close enough for the anglerfish to grab them with its huge mouth. These fish can live in waters more than 2,000 feet deep, where food is hard to come by, so their hunting method is pretty genius. Instead of chasing down their meals or using strength to catch their prey, anglerfish just wait for food to come to them. Some anglerfish species are so adapted to their environment that they don't even see at all. Instead, they rely purely on their ability to sense movement and detect the faintest ripples in the water. When they do catch something, they do not hesitate to use their gnarly, needle-like teeth to trap their prey, making them one of the most terrifying hunters of the deep sea.
Talking about space, about how we know more about space than we do about the ocean. Those underwater listening devices were most likely so that they could hear UFOs moving around. Have you ever seen those structures that they found under the ocean outside of Japan?
No.
Fascinating. It looks like some ancient structure that was under the ocean a long time ago. Look at that. There's corridors and steps. They have no idea. Now, this is scary. Flight 19 was a group of flights taken by Navy SEALs in the 1940s. Once the flight reached the North Atlantic Ocean, one of the pilots stated that it looks like we have entered white waters. We are truly lost. This area is known as the Bermuda Triangle.
Well, this thing looks creepy. Earlier this year, a team of researchers from China set out on an expedition to the northwestern Pacific Ocean to explore the depths around the Caroline Plate, an area off the coast of the Philippines. They weren't diving themselves, but instead used an underwater robot to explore the area and collect tiny creatures from the ocean floor. And when the robot pulled up a sample from a seamount, among the tiny critters they found was a pregnant amphipod, a type of shrimp-like creature that's just a few millimeters long. But this wasn't like any amphipod they'd ever seen. This was a brand new species, now been dubbed Isoris carolinus. It's an interesting but again very creepy looking creature. Good thing it's so small. The eyes in particular were noted as being large and very well pigmented, which helped it stand out among the other species that live in these deep waters. And here's the really interesting part. When the researchers looked inside its body, they found 9 baby amphipods growing inside her. This footage here was captured in 2015, a never-before-seen species of squid. So a group of researchers from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, Guillermo Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research Kiel, and the University of South Florida teamed up for an expedition in the Gulf of California off Mexico's west coast. Using a remotely operated vehicle, the team was able to dive as deep as 8,000 feet without ever leaving the surface and without disturbing the creature's environment. The team managed to capture a large squid on camera, but soon they noticed something strange about this one. The squid was carrying dozens of giant eggs, around 30 to 40 of them, each about half an inch across. Now, squids of the species they thought this mother was, called gonatids, usually carry eggs that are only about 1/5 of an inch in diameter, so these were much bigger. They'd never seen eggs this large in any gonatid squid before, and there's no other squid known to carry eggs of this size. So the researchers figured there was a very good chance they'd discovered a brand new species altogether. Pictured here is a brand new species of fish found in Africa. Earlier this year in Zambia, a strange creature was spotted swimming through a river, heading straight for a bridge. Scientists pulled the creature from the water, at first having no idea what they just found, while it turned out they discovered a brand new species. The team had been in the middle of a project studying a group of fish called Nanocharax, more commonly known as darters. They were looking at preserved specimens collected from rivers in South Africa when something odd started to stand out. out. The fish from a few specific rivers, mostly caught in 2005, had a distinct pattern that was different from the usual darters they were used to. These fish had a unique scale pattern and a banded coloring that immediately caught the researchers' attention. And after further investigation, they realized that they'd uncovered a completely new species dubbed Nanocharyx skeltoni, or Skelton's darter fish. They decided to name the species after Paul Harvey Skelton, a renowned professor at the South African Institute for Aquatic Biodiversity. A study came out this past April about a brand new species of jellyfish discovered off the coast of Florida, pictured here. Peter Schuchert and Richard Collins carried out 91 nighttime scuba dives near Palm Beach over the course of years, and they found some pretty cool stuff, like, just some never before seen jellyfish, for example. After photographing the creatures and capturing 2 of them, they took a closer look and realized they'd found a new species which was soon dubbed Zancleopsis grandis, or the large Zancleopsis jellyfish. These things are just over an inch tall with tentacles stretching more than 2 inches in length. The body itself has a long, narrow shape that shifts as the jellyfish moves through the water. The researchers named it grandis because of the relatively large size and the big bulbs on its tentacles. And just like other jellyfish, Zancleopsis grandis uses jet propulsion to move. It sucks in water and then squirts it back out through a small opening, propelling itself forward through the water. Kind of crazy that these new things were found in Florida. As Collins put it, part of the work we are doing is to demonstrate and document the amazing oceanic biodiversity here in Florida. Florida waters are well studied relative to most of the world's oceans, and yet there is still so much to learn and discover. And yeah, that is crazy because Florida, right? And then you got all this vast water over so much of the earth. Like, who knows what crazy stuff could be out there. Now, this is the first and only piece of footage ever captured of a living genus of squid called this. Just earlier this year, the Schmidt Ocean Institute led a team of oceanographers on an expedition to some of the remotest parts of the southeastern Pacific Ocean. During their month-long mission, they came across 20 never-before-seen species and another 80 that were observed in this part of the ocean for the first time. These squids have only ever been seen on the surface, i.e. they've been brought up in nets, dead. We've never seen one alive swimming around in its natural habitat, so this was pretty amazing to see. And there haven't even been that many specimens of these creatures either. It's such a rare genus that we've only had like a few specimens, and a lot of them came from the late 1800s. Sea cucumbers don't really sound all that scary, but I mean, just look at this one. This is what's called a brown-ringed sea cucumber, and it was just discovered. Scientists on a submarine were exploring the South China Sea when they spotted this small, reddish sea creature. It didn't quite look like anything they'd seen before, and as it turns out, it wasn't anything they'd seen before. It was found during a series of dives between 2018 and 2023, using a manned submersible. When the team surfaced and had a chance to study the creature, which had something like 20 tentacles and over 70 tube feet, they realized that they'd uncovered a new animal and gave it this crazy name that, again, I can't even begin to pronounce. AKA the brown-ringed sea cucumber, though. This new species of sea cucumber can grow to about 8 inches long and around 2 inches wide, and this wasn't all they found either. Yanlu Zhao and Haibin Zhang, part of the research team, also discovered 2 more new species of sea cucumber on the same expedition. Next up, we have another story that came out this past April about a new creature discovered off the southern tip of China. Just what is this thing? An ancient wood carving? Well, no, it's actually the shell of a living animal. A research team from China was exploring a deep sea area called the Haima Cold Seep off the coast of Hainan Island when their underwater robot picked up something from the sea floor. It was a shell, and at first the researchers didn't really think much of it, but once they took a closer look, they were like, well, actually, what exactly is this thing? The shell belonged to a type of mollusk known for living in extreme environments. like cold seeps. These are special areas on the seafloor where chemicals like methane and hydrogen sulfide leak up from the Earth's crust, creating this chemically rich water that only very specific life forms can survive in. This weird shell was just over 4 inches long and had a quote robust and rectangular shape. The mollusk's foot, the part that sticks out from the shell when it wants to move around, was described as large with an oval sole. But it was really the shape of the shell that made this thing so unique. It's the fact that it's rectangular. Other species' shells are usually curved inward on the ends. Just look at how gorgeous this snail is. On the coastlines of Japan, a tiny new species of sea creature has been found. Hiroshi Fukuda, a researcher and associate professor at Okayama University, first came across these rare snails over 30 years ago when he was still a student. They were actually relatively well known in Japan, but had never been formally documented until last year. Fukuda studied dozens of these snails and ended up naming them this. And luckily, it has a much easier to pronounce nickname, the strange dwarf snail. These snails are tiny, measuring less than 1/10 of an inch long, and Fukuda described these snails as bizarre. These things are small, but they move around quickly, crawling in step-like movements. Fukuda wrote in his paper that they're usually found crawling on muddy walls of earthworm and crab burrows, which might be why they were overlooked for such a long time. This strange-looking animal was discovered in an underwater cave. A team of researchers recently discovered a brand new species of hermit crab in a dark underwater cave in Japan, about 100 feet from the entrance. The 3-person team found this tiny critter in just about 3 feet of water. After carefully examining the male specimen, they realized they had come across a new species. This is its name, also called this. Not even the alternate name is easy to say. This new species is incredibly small though, measuring less than 1 centimeter long. Aw, that's cute. What really set it apart from other hermit crabs were its claws. They were described as strongly unequal and dissimilar. The right claw is moderately slender, the left claw is much smaller, only about half the size of the right one. And this last thing looks like it just hurts. Look at those like little spines and spikes on it. In March of 2021, researchers took a deep dive into the South China Sea using a manned submersible. During one of their dives, they came across a large crab sitting on some coral. They captured the creature and brought it back to study. Until then, this was a never-before documented species, which was later dubbed Gordonopsis mazupo. Finally, a scientific name that I can actually get my lips around. But they're also known as Mazu's porter crab. This new species is considered pretty big for a crab. Its body is about 1.2 inches long, with legs stretching more than 3.5 inches. When you include its legs, the crab measures over 8 inches across in total. Its claws are especially interesting, described as blade-like. The researchers named it Gordonopsis mazupo after Mazu, the Chinese goddess or grandmother of the sea. And so far, only one of these things has ever been found.
First, healthy great whites. When we think of animals being washed ashore, we often think of old and sick fish that can't resist the tide, or fish that get caught in a storm. In general, they have something wrong with them. But on October 5th of 2023, a large 14-foot great white was seen struggling and thrashing in Cape Breton waters before being stranded. This was the most recent in a disturbing string of seemingly healthy great whites washing up on Canadian shores. Even after an extensive autopsy and investigation, no reason was found for a large and apparently healthy shark to be stranded like this. Some have raised concerns, as in 2022 there was only one great white that washed up, whereas in 2023 there were more than 5. This sort of uptick in strandings is not normal or natural, and has caused many environmentalists some serious concern. How and why was this shark washed up? It had injuries, but they were all old and healed. It was well fed, it didn't have any trauma, and passed all disease tests. The mystery is still out there. Next is the whale fall. On the 16th of July 2023, something gut-wrenching happened. Beachgoers were shocked, and local officials and rescue workers went into overdrive when 55 pilot whales washed up on the Isle of Lewis. The entire pod had beached itself and had already suffered heavily. It was determined that one mother had a very difficult birth, which led to her being washed ashore and stranded. But pilot whales are deeply social animals and do not abandon one another. It's believed the rest of the pod either intentionally beached themselves or were standing staying close in shallow water and were accidentally beached. 15 whales were alive when rescue workers and medics arrived, but due to the excessive amount of trauma, only one could be successfully saved and returned to the water, making this one of the single largest mass whale death events in history.
We normally see a single whale, the occasional, very occasional group of a small number, but this is certainly my biggest number I've ever seen in a single stranding.
Next is the Globster monster. Recently, a massive lump of decaying flesh washed up in Papua New Guinea, and no one knows what it is. These gelatinous masses of decaying matter do wash up every now and again and are known as globsters, being essentially impossible to identify or recognize. This particular one happened to look quite a bit like a mermaid, which raised a lot of excitement, despite the fact it is almost certainly some sort of whale, seal, dugong, or other marine mammal. Indeed, researchers were able to narrow the Globster's identity down to being a marine mammal at least, but beyond that, no one can really tell. Apparently, no one wanted to go through DNA testing of this putrid mass, and instead, it was simply buried by the locals. Next is the lance on shore. The long-nosed lancet fish is one of the larger deep-sea predatory fish and can dwell down to 6,000 feet in depth. They have a long dorsal sail and gelatinous muscles, yet are successful predators in the deep. Yet, for some reason, one which no one knows, lancet fish keep washing up on the Oregon coast. It's not a ton of them, and it's not very frequent, but it has been happening consistently for decades or even longer, and yet still, no one knows why. There are theories to be sure, but none are exactly sufficient. Some say these lancet fish are old and weak and simply get slowly washed into shore, unable to fight the current any longer. Others think it may be due to storms that wash them ashore, and yet others say it's actually caused by cold shocks, channels of very cold water that fish may get into, causing immediate shock. Still, nothing has been proven, and the lancet fish mystery continues.
Lancetfish are quite common and sometimes caught more frequently in the waters of Hawaii than even tuna and swordfish.
Next is the deep sea football.
It's called a Pacific football fish, and it's very rare that you actually get to see one, but a beachgoer in Southern California made this discovery.
The Pacific football fish, so named because it looks like a soccer or football, is a species of deep-sea anglerfish and is one of the best ambushers in the wild. They hide in the pitch black of the deep sea and use an adapted bioluminescent spine as a lure, drawing prey into ranges for their mouth to snatch out and grab. These fish dwell at a depth of some 2,000 to 3,000 feet, completely isolated from the light. So how then did the fish wind up 3,000 feet out of its home? How did it wind up on Laguna Beach in California? In truth, no one really knows, but there are a lot of theories, from a storm that churned up the deep sea water, or a cold shock that ended this fish, or even a deep sea disease. Who knows the real reason, but it seems that every once in a while, Crystal Cove, California gets a deep sea fleshy beach surprise. Next is the megamouth. The megamouth shark is a very large deep sea shark, and yet is the smallest of the filter feeders. It uses its fine interlocking teeth as a sieve, and its titular big mouth helps it gulp up large amounts of water and prey. Because they're such deep sea creatures, we know very little about them and only have a few studyable specimens. This 18-foot long shark washed up in the Philippines, completely stunning scientists. It was pregnant with 7 pups. This was a massive discovery, as it not only tells us the potential average litter size, but also that megamouths give birth to live young, as opposed to some species that lay eggs. This is the first of many steps towards gaining a better understanding of these huge and strange deep sea creatures. Oh, and because, of course, nothing can ever be easy with science, no one knows why this shark was washed ashore. Next is the white whale. The white whale seems to have gotten tired of running from Captain Ahab and decided to spare him the satisfaction and beached itself. Of course, this isn't a vicious and combative sperm whale like in the book, it's instead a humpback, but it is still, obviously, a very big white whale. However, it didn't quite have albinism, as it did have spots of darker coloration on its skin. Researchers believe it had leucism, a genetic condition similar to albinism, but which doesn't quite affect all the pigment cells. It's unknown why this juvenile female humpback washed up on shore, and whether it had anything to do with its white skin or not, as many animals with albinism or leucism are often at greater threat from predators. And finally, the penguin apocalypse. The fairy penguins of Australia and New Zealand are an absolutely adorable species that live in small dens in protected sections of beach. Each penguin only grows to a foot tall maximum, and they spend all day in the water hunting before returning home for nightfall. But these penguins didn't return. In fact, a lot of them didn't. Multiple times, entire communities of penguins have washed up deceased at the same time. It's unknown what's causing this mass dying of fairy penguins, but as someone who has seen these little penguins return from the water and waddle to their nests, it truly hurts my heart to think of so many of these little penguins washing up at once. Those were the creepiest sea creatures that washed up on shore.
The barrelfish is a very unique but somewhat eerie looking creature found in the Mariana Trench. Its nickname is the spookfish, and you can probably see why. At first glance, it kind of looks like its eyes are on the front, but they aren't. It has a transparent head, and through this transparent head you can see this pair of glowing orbs. Those are actually its eyes. This may be one of the most unique looking animals I've ever seen, certainly the strangest looking fish. The barrel eye is a deep sea dweller living in the dark depths where sunlight barely reaches, like the Mariana Trench, and they have see-through heads. Inside their heads are big tubular eyes that point upward, not something you see every day. If that's not weird enough though, those eyes can actually rotate. So if the barrelfish wants to check something out above it, it can swivel its eyes up. They usually do this to catch prey drifting down from above. Now, as for the rest of their body, it's pretty streamlined. They're not exactly speed demons, but they've got a sleek design for life in the deep sea. These fish were first discovered in 1939, but they were hard to study because they live so deep under the water, their bodies would actually collapse because of the change in pressure when they were brought up to the surface. But now that we have remotely controlled deep sea vehicles, they've become a lot easier to observe. There are a lot of large animals lurking in the Mariana Trench, and this is because of a phenomenon known as abyssal gigantism. This is where creatures living way down in the deep sea, like the Mariana Trench, grow way bigger than their counterparts up near the surface. One example is the giant amphipods that have been discovered down there. If you don't know what amphipods are, they look kind of shrimp-like, but these giant ones can hit a whopping 13 inches in length, which is massive compared to the shallower water versions. And some other deep sea dwellers down in the trenches, like certain types of jellyfish and squid, also follow this trend of growing way larger than their counterparts nearer the surface. As to why creatures can get so big in the trench, some theories are that it's because of the extreme conditions down there. The pressure at the bottom of the ocean is insane, and the cold and dark environment might be making the creatures evolve to become giants, a way of adapting to the tough life in the deep sea by becoming supersized. The telescope octopus is a ghostly looking animal. It's pretty much entirely translucent, aside from its eyes, which are strangely tubular. They protrude out of its body almost like telescopes. This allows for wider peripheral vision so it can avoid predators and locate prey. Even cooler though, the telescope octopus has this nifty trick where it can almost disappear. If it feels threatened or just wants to be sneaky, it can wrap its arms around its body, turning it into this smooth, gelatinous blob type thing, blending into the dark background of the deep sea. Even though they have this ghostly translucent look where you can see the insides of their heads, there's something beautiful about these creatures and the way they just peacefully glide through the water. It's mesmerizing. Next we have the Osidax, which is a pretty cool creature but kinda nasty at the same time. On top of that, they look like something from another planet. They have a few nicknames: bone worms, zombie worms, and bone-eating worms. Pretty ominous by the sounds of it, but these guys are basically underwater recyclers. These worms have adapted to bore into the skeletons of dead animals, particularly whale carcasses, to access the fatty lipids locked inside. They were first discovered at a depth of 10,000 feet. They've evolved to thrive in the extreme conditions of the sea floor. Their main source of food is the remains of dead whales and other animal carcasses that sink to the ocean floor. The success of zombie worms relies on teamwork, with the females taking on the majority of tasks. Using acidic secretions, they drill into the bones of dead animals, freeing up all those valuable lipids. This involves a symbiotic relationship with bacteria as well that aid in the digestion and processing of these released lipids. This allows the zombie worms to make a living in the deep sea environment where food sources are pretty scarce. Next on the list we have the goblin shark. These have to be the most horrific looking sharks in existence, right? I mean, goblin sharks, it's really just a perfect name for them. Just look at that. I'm like, yeah, that's a water goblin. They have elongated, flattened snouts, almost like they have swords sticking out of their faces. They have a pinkish white coloration, and their skin is actually kind of translucent. You can almost see their blood vessels underneath. Combine this with their long, sharp teeth that just jut out at odd angles, and you've got a face that only their mother could love, and even that's a bit of a stretch. Goblin sharks also have the ability to thrust their jaws forward to snatch their prey, almost like the xenomorph in Alien. Take a look at this. The anglerfish. These are those super deep sea fish with the bioluminescent lures that hang in front of their mouths. In the Mariana Trench, various species of anglerfish have been found, and they're all pretty unsettling to look at. One of the strangest parts about certain species of anglerfish, though, is how they mate. Males are significantly smaller than females, and often have a completely different role in the reproductive process. When a male finds a female, he latches onto her body and eventually fuses with her, becoming this permanent reproductive partner. This allows the female to have a readily available mate, and this is very important because encounters with other anglerfish are rare. The deep sea environment they live in is just so sparse, so they gotta take what they can get. But let's talk about those jaws. They're huge, allowing them to consume prey much larger than themselves. Their jaws can also extend, and their stomachs can stretch, allowing them to engulf prey whole. And to top it off, anglerfish are known as ambush predators. Many of them are dark, helping them blend into the abyss and avoid being seen by prey and other predators. Next up, we have the vampire squid. These are really cool looking creatures. I think they may be my favorite type of squid, even though they're not actually squids. I'll get to that a bit later though. Anyway, pretty clear how these things got their name. It looks like it's wearing your classic Halloween-y vampire type cape. Batman squid would have also been a good nickname for these things. Like I said, despite their name, these things are actually not true squids. They're more closely related to octopus, and they belong to a distinct order of cephalopods called Vampiromorphidae, and they're the only living species found in this group. All the other creatures that were once in it are now extinct. The vampire squid has a gelatinous body covered in photophores, which can emit bioluminescent light. It also has webbing between its arms, which creates that kind of cloak-like appearance. This allows the squid to control its buoyancy. The coolest thing about vampire squids, though, are their defense mechanisms. They can turn themselves inside out, covering their bodies with spines, and this helps frighten off predators. Next on the list is the fang-toothed fish. You can clearly see how this thing got its name. This thing is horrifying. It's small, only reaching about 6 inches, but it has that fearsome set of jaws and a pair of dead white eyes, making for a pretty intimidating little creature. I'm sure it still wouldn't be fun being bit by one of these things. They're almost like zombie fish a little bit, the way their eyes look. Plus, those teeth are so large that the fangtooth can't actually close its mouth completely. They're disproportionately large compared to their body. Their dark coloration, usually a deep brown or black, allows them to blend into the darkness of the deep sea as well, making it easier, of course, for them to ambush their prey. As scary as they look, though, they're mostly feeding on smaller fish and zooplankton. An interesting thing about the fangtooth are their unique swim bladders. Unlike many fish which rely on their swim bladders for buoyancy, fangtooths have a reduced swim bladder, which helps them remain stable in the extreme pressures of the deep sea. This next one is actually pretty cool. Plastic-eating microbes. There are some really strange microbes living deep within the trench. Scientists have found some microbes able to survive deep in an environment with intense pressure and just pitch black darkness. One pretty remarkable discovery among these mysterious microbes is a type that actually has the ability to consume plastic. As wild as this is, it's actually a good thing because plastic pollution has become a pretty big environmental concern. Finding microbes that can break down plastic is kind of a good sign. It could potentially assist in reducing plastic waste in the ocean. Mariana Trench, reaching depths of over 36,000 feet, makes for pretty extreme challenges for life. The pressure at those depths is intense, equivalent to about 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. This goes to show how adaptable life can be in the most extreme environments. Finally though, we have the deep sea dragonfish. This is a group of bioluminescent fish that lurk deep in the Mariana Trench, and what a horrifying looking creature it is. This thing looks like, you know that hallway monster in Hellraiser that like runs along the wall? Reminds me of that. These guys have long fang-like teeth and elongated bodies, incredibly menacing, sort of like a piranha and a serpent fused together. These ones are also, again, bioluminescent, producing light through chemical reactions in their bodies. They use this bioluminescence not just to navigate the darkness of the depths, but to lure prey and communicate with each other. The light can be emitted from various parts of their bodies, helping them to camouflage against the faint light from above, making it easier to surprise unsuspecting fish. They also have an excellent sense of smell, which allows them to detect food from a distance. Once they identify their prey, they strike quickly, using their sharp teeth to capture and consume. This does not look like something from this planet. That is one creepy looking creature. Not only does it have this incredibly strange looking head, but the length of those tentacles, it just doesn't look real. But it is. Now, this video was taken at a drilling site in the Gulf of Mexico, but these squids are found all through the warm tropical waters of the Atlantic Ocean, including areas around the Bermuda Triangle. I probably don't need to say this after the clip you just saw, but these things' tentacles get incredibly long, around 4 to 8 meters or 13 to 26 feet. These are the only squids known to live in the Hadal Zone, the deepest region of the ocean, but it makes sense. They definitely do fit in with all the other strange, alien-looking life that lurks down there. What you're seeing here is a fish trying to avoid the deadly tentacles of a Portuguese man-o-war. They're really cool looking creatures, but their stings are powerful enough to kill some fish and in rare cases even humans. If their venom travels to the lymph nodes, it can cause airway blockage, shortness of breath, cardiac issues, and again, in extreme cases, even death. In every case though, their stings are incredibly painful. Anything that gets that guttural, almost animalistic scream out of you, that's gotta be incredibly painful. This video was posted to the channel Aqua de Leo, who'd been spearfishing with a friend when a wave pushed a Portuguese man-o-war right over his head. He went on to write in the description, "I didn't even see it, but immediately felt the tentacles on my neck and it sent me into a world of pain. As soon as I lifted my head out of the water, I felt it push up against my lips and cheeks, and the tentacles latched onto my mask and neck." He finished off with a pretty important word of advice: never dive alone. Great whites may be terrifying, but have you ever heard of the megamouth shark? Definitely sounds pretty ominous. This is some rare footage of one. Now, it may not look all that scary here, but how about this image? There we go, that's more terrifying. Just imagine if that thing was alive. These are very elusive sharks. In fact, they were only discovered in 1976. Not only can they get really big, up to 18 feet or about 5.5 meters long, but as you can probably tell, they're very odd looking and have one of the largest mouths in the animal kingdom. Huge, wide, and lined with hundreds of tiny teeth, designed for filtering plankton from the water. Now, unlike most sharks that are sleek, fast hunters, the megamouth moves slowly and feeds by swimming through the water with its open mouth, so it may not be the most threatening of sharks in practice, but they do look pretty terrifying, and I'm still sure you wouldn't want to get in one's way. A much more dangerous shark though is the oceanic white tip. There's no escaping these guys. They're found all over the ocean, including the Bermuda Triangle, but they don't go very far north or south, preferring warmer waters, and they can be very aggressive. They aren't very picky about what they eat either. They're scavenging, opportunistic feeders, and if you're ever stranded out in the middle of the ocean, you'll probably be dealing with these things if you're out there long enough. Oceanic white tips have been responsible for tons of attacks during shipwrecks and plane crashes, especially when injured survivors are leaking out their BLOOD into the water. They just love that. It's not that they prefer humans over anything else, they just go for whatever's most vulnerable and easy to catch. So if a plane crashes or a ship sinks, the shark may not hesitate to swim in and check out the scene, circling the area before picking off the survivors. Imagine, if you will, that you're flying over the ocean on your way to Florida or Puerto Rico, anywhere around the Bermuda Triangle. It's been a peaceful flight, in fact you're almost nodding off as you stare down at the ocean below. but then you spot something a little strange. A shadow is looming in the water, and it's getting bigger and bigger. It starts creating ripples, which get more and more violent. People around you are starting to notice now. Passengers are even starting to audibly panic, and before you can even react, a colossal figure leaps out of the water, its enormous jaws snapping open, and to your horror, your tranquil window view is soon enveloped by this ginormous beast's gaping maw. And then that's it. You and everyone else in the plane just gone, dragged into the depths of the ocean down below. You've been what I'm gonna call Bermuda Beasted. We all know what makes the Bermuda Triangle so intriguing are all the ships and planes that have gone missing while flying or sailing through it. There are tons of theories as to what could be happening, and one of them is that there's this massive undiscovered monster gobbling up boats and aircraft dubbed the Bermuda Beast. While sailing the waters of the Bermuda Triangle, you may just hear the eerie high-pitched calls of a rare and endangered bird called the Bermuda petrel, also known as the cacao. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty adorable animal, but aside from being cute, there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about with these things. First of all, these are endangered birds, so endangered that for years it was thought to actually be extinct until it was rediscovered in 1951, nesting on a tiny remote island in the Bermuda Triangle. And then there's the cacao haunting, high-pitched calls that echo over the water. To some, they sound almost ghostly as they reverberate. Their white feathers also give them a bit of a ghost-like appearance as they soar through the air. For this reason, they're sometimes referred to as the ghost bird. Frilled sharks are what are known as living fossils. It's one of the creepiest, most ancient-looking creatures to ever lurk in the deep. These things have long eel-like bodies and sharp needle-like teeth arranged in rows. It's been around for millions of years, and its appearance has barely changed since the time of the dinosaurs. This is why they're known as living fossils. And when you see one, it's easy to understand why it looks like it could have been designed to haunt the darkest corners of the ocean. With its long, tooth-filled mouth, a frilled shark can grab onto prey with this eerie, snake-like motion. It's not a fast swimmer really, but it lurks in the deep and then ambushes fish and squid. Scorpion fish can be found throughout the Indo-Pacific. This is actually a family of fish containing many different species, like the stonefish and lionfish. First off, let's talk about the stonefish. This one is a real nightmare if you're walking around barefoot in the shallow water. These fish are masters of camouflage. They look like, nothing more than a rock or a pile of seaweed, blending perfectly with the ocean floor, but if you accidentally step on one, you're in trouble. The spines on its back inject potent venom that can cause excruciating pain and even paralyze you. In some cases, it can be deadly if you're not treated quickly enough. Then there's the lionfish, which is a pretty cool looking animal, terrifying in its own way though, and it's even worse if you get near it. This fish has long spiny fins that look like razor sharp daggers protruding out of their bodies. It's not really an aggressive fish, but if you get too close, again, its spines can inject a painful venom. Look how strange this creature looks when it eats. This is a goblin shark, pretty apt name. Goblin sharks have these long, flattened snouts that look, to put it bluntly, pretty ugly. The other cool thing about them though is that, as you just saw, their skin is almost translucent. But the real horror comes from its extendable jaw. The goblin shark's jaw can literally shoot forward to snatch prey like some freaky mechanical contraption, grabbing onto whatever fish or squid it's after. Pretty disturbing stuff. Now, luckily these are deep sea dwellers, typically found in waters between 200 and 1200 feet deep, so it's not something you're likely gonna bump into while snorkeling. Now, we talked about the creepy looking big fin squid at the top of the video, so seems fitting to close out with another type of squid, the giant squid. A seldom seen creature lurking in the depths of the ocean, once thought of as a mythical creature. The giant squid is one of the most incredible creatures ever discovered. It can grow up to 40 feet long, possibly even bigger, making it one of the largest invertebrates on Earth. Tentacles that could wrap around your boat like a snake, massive suction cups that could hold on to anything that gets too close. Basically, Basically, they're the real-life versions of the kraken. These creatures rarely come up to the surface though, only venturing into shallower waters occasionally, so they're not the easiest animal to study, which is why they were placed in the realm of myth and legend for such a long time. For centuries, sailors and fishermen would tell tales of sea monsters, stories of enormous tentacled beasts dragging ships under the waves, and it's very possible that at least some of these stories were based on real encounters with the giant squid. Well, this is exciting. This news just came out the other day. In the waters off the Solomon Islands, there is a sea creature so massive it could be seen from space. In fact, it's one of the largest living organisms on Earth, a colossal coral colony. Discovered by a team of researchers and filmmakers, this coral is roughly the size of 2 basketball courts. Unlike most coral reefs, which are made up of different colonies, this one is an individual organism made up of millions of tiny animals called polyps. The species is Pavona clavus, and its size and slow growth suggests it's been around for centuries. Underwater photographer Manu Sanfelix, who first saw it last month, was in awe, saying, quote, "It's a dream to see something unique like this. When Napoleon was alive, this thing was here," end quote. Before this discovery, the largest known coral was in American Samoa, measuring about 22 meters wide, but as marine conservation expert Stacy Jupiter points out, humans have only surveyed about 5% of the planet's marine realm. That means there could still be larger corals hidden out in uncharted waters. What you're looking at here is a newly discovered creature. Again, news about this one just came out the other day. In the Monterey Canyon off California, marine biologist Bruce Robison made a discovery back in 2000. While exploring with robotic vehicles, he came across a strange gelatinous blob with a giant hood, finger-like projections, and colorful internal organs. Fast forward nearly 25 years, and Robison, along with colleague Stephen Haddock, which is a great name for someone who studies fish, they have finally solved the mystery. They've identified this bizarre creature as a brand new type of nudibranch, or sea slug. Now, unlike other sea slugs that crawl along the ocean floor though, this one floats. Looks a lot more like a jellyfish. Even more astonishing, this new nudibranch can jet backward by expelling water from its hood. The hood, as it turns out, is like a Venus flytrap, capable of expanding and contracting to trap its prey. The creature is also bioluminescent and has both male and female reproductive organs. A pretty fascinating little creature. These are recently discovered octopus species. Roughly 2 miles beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean near Costa Rica, scientists found 4 brand new species of octopus during expeditions in June and December of last year. It all started when researchers spotted pink octopus hatchlings coming out from their eggs at a place known as El Dorado Hill. Jorge Cortez Nunez, a researcher from the University of Costa Rica, said it was unexpected to find so many species of octopus in a small area, first, and second, at 3,000 meters depth. In June, researchers using a remotely operated vehicle named Sebastian found 2 octopus nurseries around hydrothermal springs on the sea floor. They discovered that these octopuses seemed to prefer the warm waters from the vents, which helps shorten their long incubation period. The warm water gives the eggs a better chance of surviving in the cold, dark depths. One of the new species was even given an unofficial nickname, the Dorado octopus, after the spot where it was found. The species has short arms and small eyes, similar to the pearl octopus found off California. The other species had bigger eyes and longer arms. The 4th species is especially mysterious, with bumpy pale skin and a strange row of suckers on each arm. In total, about 310 deep-sea octopus specimens were collected. What you're looking at here is a recently discovered species of fish in China. You'll notice that it doesn't have eyes. They kind of look like raw chicken cutlets or something else that I can't really describe on here. And those dark patches that you see, those are its internal organs. Deep in an underground river in southern China, scientists found these blind pink fish with no eyes. They were swimming in the dark depths of a cave system in Guangxi when researchers first encountered them during surveys between 2019 and 2024. They were on the hunt for Chinese karst loaches, but quickly realized that this fish didn't match any known species. After studying it, the team confirmed that they had discovered a new species. This is the overly complicated scientific name on screen now, so I'll use the nickname Dachshund Chinese karst loach. These tiny fish are only about an inch long and have elongated bodies with no scales. They also have wide heads, narrow mouths, and whisker-like thingies on their heads, but again, no eyes. Researchers believe this species, like others in the area, lives in deep caves with underground rivers and is rarely seen by people. In November of last year, anglers off the coast of Pakistan reeled in a strange catch, a quote, torpedo-shaped predator with teeth on its tongue. At first they thought it was a regular fish, but researchers Sherkhan Panwar and Imtiaz Kashani soon realized they'd actually found something new. And after examining these fish in the lab, they discovered not one, but two new species. The first was Brachycentron blotchy, or the blotchy cobia. These predators are about 3 feet long, weigh around 8 pounds, and have small eyes, pointed snouts, and tiny teeth on their jaws, the roof of their mouths, and yes, even their tongues. Inside their stomachs, they found a mix of small fish, crustaceans, and cephalopods. Second species, Brachycentron marquiensis, or the macron cobia, is smaller, about 2.5 feet long, and weighs about 6 pounds. It has a short, pointed head, small teeth, and a greenish coloring with a gray band running along its side. Its stomach contained mostly digested material and some crab parts. How's this for an animal name? The night-armored catfish. Pretty cool, but does it live up to its name? Well, this is one right here. Divers in northern Brazil were exploring the Xingju River, hoping to find some Asacu preto, a thorny black fish often sold in the aquarium trade. Well, it turns out these fish hadn't been documented by science yet. After teaming up with local fishermen and digging through museum collections, scientists realized that this was a brand new species which they named Pseudacanthicus nictos, or the night-armored catfish. These fish can grow up to 10 inches long and have completely black eyes, forked teeth, and their bodies are covered in armor-like plates and thorny spikes. Living in the murky depths of the river, they're usually found around submerged logs, sometimes as deep as 65 feet. As you could probably tell, they're carnivores, feeding on small aquatic animals. They're also very territorial. The males can get very aggressive, especially when sharing space with other males. Off the coast of Belize, anglers unknowingly caught a new species of shark between 2016 and 2019. First they thought they'd just landed another hammerhead, but something about the shark's unique shovel-shaped heads made scientists take a closer look. And after analyzing the shark's body shape, skeleton, and DNA, researchers realized these were part of a completely new species, the shovelbill shark. These small sharks, measuring up to 3 feet 4 inches long, have these very unique, flat, shovel-looking heads. They're found in coastal waters, estuaries, coral reefs, and seagrass beds from Belize all the way to Brazil. They're often caught by anglers, and experts warn that they may already be highly threatened. As co-author of the study, Demian Chapman said, "It is tragic that we have only just recognized that this species exists, and we are already running against the clock to prevent its extinction." Yeah, that is very sad, especially because these sharks are kind of cute, you know? Off the coast of Saudi Arabia, researchers exploring coral reefs discovered this tiny, really upset-looking fish, and honestly, I think if I looked like this, I would also be in a pretty bad mood all the time. While diving in the Red Sea, they released clove oil into an underwater cave to sedate the fish inside, and a small dark red goby floated to the surface. At first, they weren't sure what species it was, and after several sightings and a few more catches, they figured out why. This was not a species they'd ever seen before. This little fish, only about ½ an inch long, had a severely curved mouth that gave it this sort of grumpy look. Researchers named it the grumpy dwarf goby because of this permanently unhappy looking facial expression. The fish is incredibly rare, with only 10 specimens found during extensive collections along the Saudi Arabian coast, said the researchers. They live in small caves, rocky overhangs, or crevices about 32 to 100 feet below the surface. Again, in the caves of southern China, researchers discovered a fish which they'd named Liu's cave loach, a new species swimming through heavily polluted water. The creatures caught the attention of scientists visiting the area in 2023. Spelled out for you here is their scientific name, but again, they're also called Liu's cave loach for short. They can grow up to 2.5 inches long. They have elongated bodies covered in tiny scales with bright yellow fins. Their snouts are lined with whiskers, almost like catfish, and their eyes have a yellowish hue. They live in underground rivers and cave pools, but don't show the usual traits of cave-dwelling species. They were also found breeding in a cave pond, despite the water being heavily polluted from nearby sugar factories and duck farms. So far, Liu's cave loaches have only been found in the caves of Yifeng District, Guangxi, a province in southern China near the Vietnam border. Deep beneath the surface of the ocean, researchers have discovered 3 brand new species of sea stars living in some of the most remote and bizarre environments on Earth. The sea stars were found thousands of feet below the surface, at methane seeps in underwater valleys using remote-controlled vehicles during surveys between 2003 and 2018. One of the new species, showing up on screen in text right now because I don't have a week to learn how to pronounce that. Anyway, it was discovered off the coast of Costa Rica about 3,200 feet down. With flower-like patterns, small plates on its back, these creatures move along the seafloor using tube feet that extend down each arm. Another species, Hymonostella davidalani, also found in Costa Rica, looks similar but has thorny, elongated spines along the edge of its body. The third species, Cayman Ostella lorisae, has short spines covered in thick skin, and interestingly, all mature specimens looked identical. These deep sea stars seem to live around stuff that sinks to the bottom of the ocean, like sunken wood, which gives them shelter and food. And researchers still aren't sure if the sea stars eat only the wood or if they have other food sources down there. One of the wildest tales in naval history is the encounter the USS Stein had back in 1978. The ship was cruising in an undisclosed location when suddenly its sonar equipment went down. The crew was startled by the noise feedback, but no one could see what was going on. When they returned to dry dock to figure out what had happened, they found that the sonar dome, located right at the bow of the ship, had been shredded. We're talking about large gashes, some 4 feet long, or about 1.2 meters, that covered about 8% of the dome's surface, and if that wasn't crazy enough, they found these massive teeth or claws embedded in the slash marks. Navy Marine biologist Forrest G. Wood took a look at the evidence and concluded that these were arm hooks from a squid. But here's the thing, the claws were way bigger than any squid parts anyone had ever seen before. C. Scott Johnson, a Navy biophysicist, went a step further and suggested that they were likely dealing with a, quote, extremely large species still unknown to science. So what was it? A giant squid? Some other monstrous deep sea creature? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. The HMS Daedalus has a fascinating story, especially when it comes to the legendary sea serpent sighting back in 1848. Launched as a warship in 1826, it was during one of its voyages to St. Helena that something absolutely wild happened. On August 6th of 1848, Captain McQuay and his crew spotted an enormous creature while navigating between the Cape of Good Hope and St. Helena. They described it as a giant serpent with about 4 feet of its head visible above the water. The captain estimated the entire length to be around 60 feet and said it was dark brown in color with a yellowish white throat. The creature was swimming fast, between 19 and 24 kilometers per hour, and the captain claimed that the creature, quote, passed rapidly, but so close under our lee quarter that, had it been a man of my acquaintance, I should have easily have recognized his features with the naked eye. He wasn't the only one who saw it either. 7 crew members reported seeing the creature for about 20 minutes. One officer also said that it looked more like a lizard than a serpent. Speaking of the sea serpent reportedly seen by the Daedalus, another sea monster was seen that very same year. this time by an American ship. The story of the sighting was detailed in a letter to a Glasgow newspaper, written by James Henderson, captain of the Mary Ann of Glasgow. When clearing out of the port of Lisbon, upon the 30th of September last, we saw the American brig Daphne of Boston. She signals for us to heave to and lay to, while the mate boarded us, and handed a packet of letters to be dispatched per first steamer for Boston on our arrival in England. The mate told me that upon the 20th of September a most extraordinary animal had been seen. It had the appearance of a huge serpent, or snake, with a dragon's head. Immediately upon its being seen, one of the deck guns was brought to bear, which, having been charged with nails and whatever other pieces of iron could be got at the moment, was discharged at the animal. Then, only distant about 40 yards from the ship, it immediately reared its head in the air and plunged violently with its body, showing that the charge had taken effect. It was seen foaming and lashing the water at fearful rate. Upon the brig nearing, however, it disappeared, and though evidently wounded, made rapidly off at the rate of 15 or 16 knots an hour, as was judged from its appearing several times upon the surface. The Daphne pursued for some time, but the night coming on, the master was obliged to put about and continue his voyage. From the description given by the mate, the brute must have been nearly 100 feet long. Captain Henderson went on to write that the creature matched the description of the one seen by Captain McQuahey and his crew on the Daedalus. The USS Indianapolis incident is one of the most harrowing shark attack stories in history. This US Navy cruiser was on a mission in 1945 delivering enriched uranium for the atomic bomb Little Boy. After successfully completing that mission, the ship set sail for the Philippines with a crew of 1,195. But just after midnight, a Japanese sub torpedoed the ship. In a matter of minutes, the Indianapolis sank and 300 sailors went down with her. For the survivors, though, things would only get worse. Around 900 men now found themselves adrift in the vast Pacific with no land in sight. As the wreckage floated and chaos unfolded, the sounds of explosions and splashes attracted hundreds of hungry oceanic white-tipped sharks. Sharks like this here. Just imagine a swarm of these things mauling you as you're stranded out in the middle of nowhere, hanging on to rubble for dear life. The sharks, being drawn by the scent of BLOOD and thrashing bodies, began circling the survivors, and over the next 3.5 days, the sailors would be fighting off these relentless attacks from the sharks, using whatever they could grab, life vests, oars, anything to defend themselves. And not only that, but they had dehydration and the fear of drowning to worry about. Some sailors ended up taking their own lives rather than facing the absolute hell that they were in. When rescue finally arrived, only 316 men were left alive out of 900. This has to be the most horrific shark attack story I've ever heard. On April 30th of 1918, Captain Gunther Kretsch and his crew were captured by a British warship. When interrogated, Kretsch would tell the Brits one of the wildest tales in naval history. He told them that his submarine had been attacked by a monstrous sea creature. According to him, the beast had small, deep-set eyes, was covered in horns, and had a mouth full of sharp teeth. He claimed it climbed aboard their U-boat, causing it to take on water. They had no idea what to make of Kretsch's story, but it soon came out that things didn't exactly go the way the Germans said they did. Another German crew member revealed that Kretsch had been unusually cold, insisting on having a heater installed in the office's compartment. This installation required running cabling from the sub through the main hatch, which ended up compromising its seal. When the British ship was spotted, the crew hurriedly shut the hatch and attempted to dive, but because of the faulty hatch, water started rushing into the submarine. So they had to surface, and then the crew had no choice but to surrender. Kretsch was so embarrassed about his mistake that he made up this story about a sea monster just so the British wouldn't see how incompetent he'd been. That's a pretty funny story. During the Cold War, the US Navy faced a strange problem that no one expected. Damage to its Ohio-class submarines, and it turned out that this damage was actually being caused by very little sharks called cookie cutter sharks. These submarines were some of the largest ever built, after all. They were state-of-the-art, powerful ships, but submarine crews started reporting issues like leaking oil lines, missing chunks from electrical cables, and damaged sonar domes. At first, the Navy suspected the Soviets had something to do with it. Perhaps they'd built some highly advanced weapon that they just weren't picking up. But it turned out that these small sharks were just taking bites out of the subs. Cookie cutter sharks, also known as cigar sharks, only grow about 16 to 20 inches long. Their feeding method is what gives them their name. They bite circular holes into their prey, leaving behind wounds that look like they were left by a big cookie cutter. Take a look at this dolphin here with a big chunk taken out of it. What you're looking at here was caused by a cookie cutter shark. It looks horrific. These sharks aren't picky eaters, obviously. I mean, they go after all kinds of marine life and even non-edible material, especially any exposed soft areas. When Navy officials realized that these tiny predators were behind the mysterious damage to the submarines, they began installing fiberglass domes around the most vulnerable parts of the subs. How about some creepy sounds at sea? This next story comes from Reddit user Vitamin, who writes, I was US Navy. Pretty sure we heard siren calls somewhere northwest of the Marshall Islands. Was on the smoke deck on 3 separate occasions at night, and anyone who was out there heard what sounded like a distant screech echoing over the waves. I remember it well because it caused several man overboard scares where we'd all have to go muster to make sure those sounds weren't any of ours. Never actually saw anything, so I rationalized that it could have been some kind of animal or seabird, but it sounded human. But not entirely human. We joked for weeks after we left the region that Ariel, the Little Mermaid, was gonna kill us. This was 2013, but I still remember that sound like it was yesterday. The kind of sound that hits your core like freezing wind does. Not something I'd want to hear again. And then a commenter asked him if it sounded like a woman or a man's screech, and Vitamin replied saying that it was hard to describe, but sounded almost androgynous, a mix of feminine and masculine in the sound, which was also distorted by the eerie echo. During the Vietnam War, a terrifying incident took place involving the USS Maddox. In 1964, tensions were high, and one night the Maddox found itself in a heated confrontation with North Vietnamese torpedo boats. After firing 380 shells and dropping several depth charges, the crew expected to see enemy vessels, but to their confusion, air support reported no sign of any boats. The sonar engineer who was on the Maddox that night told the story to a marine biologist named Todd Newberry in 1966, and he described how radar picked up objects that looked like torpedoes, but they behaved strangely, almost as if they were alive. Newberry had a wild theory. These mysterious radar blips could have actually been pyrosomes. Pyrosomes are marine organisms made up of thousands of tiny individuals that come together to create this large, translucent form. They can grow up to 60 feet long or 18 meters and are bioluminescent, which would explain the reports of bright lights seen that night, which were mistaken for enemy craft. Back in 1976, a torpedo recovery boat was doing some oceanographic research when it snagged something big while dragging a cargo parachute. The crew had no clue what they'd caught, but whatever it was, it put up one heck of a fight. The ship was straining against this powerful creature, but then suddenly everything stopped. The beast had suffocated, accidentally having swallowed part of the chute. The crew pulled the thing aboard, and they couldn't believe their eyes. They had just caught what would later be named a megamouth shark. Yes, later named. This was a creature that had never been seen before this day, and they'd caught it entirely by accident. And it wasn't small either. This monster was about 15 feet long and weighed around 750 pounds. The megamouth shark is rarely ever seen. Since the day it was discovered by this crew back in 1976, it's only been spotted about 100 other times. In 1955, something incredible happened aboard the USS Hale. Commander Vining A. Sherman was called to the bridge to check out something unusual caught on the ship's ramming stem. What he saw was a, quote, monster of gigantic size. He could hardly believe his eyes. The creature had been split in two, with an estimated 40 feet of its body dragging along the port side and another 12 feet hanging off the starboard side. Sherman had seen plenty of sharks, but never one that was over 50 feet long. As they freed the ship from the creature, Sherman took a closer look. He couldn't shake the feeling that this thing was unlike any shark he had ever encountered. He thought it was so large that he could easily sit in its mouth. When they returned to port, Sherman did some research and he eventually found that the mysterious creature was a whale shark. At that time, sightings of whale sharks were incredibly rare. He spoke to many sailors and fishermen who had heard legends about these massive creatures but had never actually seen one themselves. And yeah, the thing must have looked like a monster. Take a look at this footage here of one being hauled out of the water.
Number 10. Giant oarfish. An oarfish really looks like a fish-snake hybrid, as it's a huge, greatly elonged fish. The giant oarfish is the longest bony fish alive, growing up to 36 feet in length. It is found in areas spanning from temperate ocean zones to tropical ones. But unfortunately, we know little about the oarfish because it lives deep underwater and it's rarely seen. However, we know it neither feeds on humans nor fishes, but on small marine creatures like crustaceans and krill. It was officially discovered in 1772, and in September 1996, the United States Navy SEALs found a giant oarfish that washed up on the shore near San Diego, California, and it was 23 feet long. The giant oarfish is by far the largest member of its fish family, at a published total length of 26 feet, with unconfirmed reports of 36 feet and 56 feet specimens and 600 pounds in weight. Now, even though those aren't confirmed, the 20-foot long one still scares me immensely. Number 9. Giant squid. So the Kraken is a legendary sea monster of enormous size and is said to appear off the coast of Norway, but what if I told you it was real? A giant squid was found on a shore in Denmark in 1853. The giant squid is as elusive as the legend it inspired, as it lives so deep underwater that we have limited information about it. However, we know it has the largest eyes of all living creatures, grows up to 60 feet, and is frequently hunted by sperm whales for food. The weaker giant squid generally flees when confronted by a whale. However, it sometimes fights back when cornered, and it's not unusual to find sperm whales with scars left from their battles with giant squids. It wasn't until the turn of this century in 2001 that humans saw the giant squid for the first time, and only a few years after that it was finally photographed, making it one of the most elusive on the planet. The giant squid has long been known to exist, but capturing it on film has taken scientists extensive time and voyages to the deepest parts of the ocean where life is difficult to sustain. Number 8. Ribbon worm. Most ribbon worms are very slim, usually only a few millimeters wide, although a few have relatively short but wide bodies. Many have a pattern of yellow, orange, red, and green coloration, and they move slowly using their external cilia to glide on surfaces on a trail of slime, while larger species use muscular waves to crawl. Most of these worms burrow in sediments, lurk in crevices between shells, stones, or the holdfasts of algae or sessile animals. Others build semi-permanent burrows lined with mucus or produce cellophane-like tubes. Mainly in the tropics and subtropics, about 12 species appear in freshwater, and about a dozen species live on the land in cool, damp places, for example under rotting logs. Now these just sound disgusting to me, and I never want to get close to one. Number 7. Hagfish. With a name like that, I think you can expect this thing to be quite ugly. And it is. It actually makes me incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, just look at it. Ew, like how is that even real? Now, hagfish are eel-shaped, slime-producing marine fish, and they are the only known living animals that have a skull but no vertebral column, although hagfish do have rudimentary vertebrae. Hagfish are jawless, and living hagfish remain similar to hagfish from around 30 million years ago. There are estimated to be 76 species of hagfish, and some live as deep as 5,500 feet below the water's surface. They're also known as slime eels, animals because of the goop their bodies produce to ward off predators. These animals can grow to be between 16 and 40 inches long, and some live as deep as 5,600 feet below the water's surface, and as long as they stay away from me though, that's all that matters. Number 6. Barreleye. The barreleye, also known as a spookfish, has extremely light-sensitive eyes on top of its fluid-filled head. The barreleye was first described in 1939, but remained a mystery to scientists until 2009, when they discovered that its large tubular eyes could actually rotate inside its head. This rotational ability allows them to look upward for potential prey or face forward to see what it is eating. Since barreleyes live at such depths where there is hardly any light, their tubular eyes help them see whatever faint amounts of light drift down to them. They also have 2 spots above their mouths which are called nars, similar to human nostrils. Now I understand why they're called spookfish though, because they do look extremely spooky. Number 5. The slender snipe eel. The slender snipe eel, one of the most compact deep-sea critters, can grow to a minimum length of 4 feet, but weighs no more than 6 or 7 ounces. It has a bird-like beak with curving tips covered with tiny hooked teeth, which they use to sweep through the water to catch shrimp and other crustaceans. It has a lifespan of 10 years and has more vertebrae in its backbone than any other animal, which is around 750. However, its anus has moved forward during its evolution, and it's now located on the throat, so that's nice. Their reproduction is done by spawning, which is when a female lays eggs and the males lay their sperm into the water at the same time. Now, the slender snipe eel only spawns once in their lifetime, as they just die after spawning. Now, it's difficult for scientists to research these organisms because of the extreme environment they inhabit, but hopefully one day we'll get more information on them. Number 4. Goblin shark. The goblin shark is a rare species of deep-sea shark. Sometimes called a living fossil, they are part of a lineage of sharks that are some 125 million years old. The pink-skinned animal has a distinctive profile with an elongated flat snout and highly protrusible jaws containing prominent nail-like teeth. It is usually between 10 and 13 feet long when mature, though it can grow considerably larger because there was once one captured in 2000 that is thought to have been measured 20 feet. With 50 teeth in their mouths, those gruesome creatures command attention, and honestly not really for the right reasons. Interestingly, female goblin sharks are larger in adulthood than the male species. Now, despite their size, some researchers believe that these sharks could also dive the depths up to 4,270 feet for short periods of time. Number 3. Osdax. Osdax is Latin for bone eater, and these animals are also known as zombie worms. The name alludes to how these worms bore into the bones of whale carcasses to reach enclosed liptids on which they rely for substance. With no mouth, anus, or gut, the 4-centimeter long worms survive by secreting an acid that breaks up the whale bone. Now, why do these even exist? I don't know. They utilize specialized root tissues for bone boring, and it is possible that multiple species of Osdax reside in the same bone. Osdax worms are also known to feed on the collagen itself by making holes in the whale's skeletal structure. These holes can also serve as a form of protection from nearby predators. Scientists from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, using the submarine ROV Tiburn, first discovered the species in Monterey Bay, California in February 2002. The worms were found living on the bones of a decaying gray whale in the Monterey Canyon at a depth of 9,491 feet. Number 2. Deep sea dragonfish. Deep sea dragonfish are quite small, usually around 15 centimeters up to 26 centimeters. These fish are apex predators and have enormous jaws filled with fang-like teeth. In addition, they are also able to hinge their upper jaw system, which leads to them opening the jaw to more than 100 degrees, which is scary. This ability allows them to consume extremely large prey, often 50% greater than their standard length. The dragonfish can be found in all oceans, and they also exist at a wide range of depths between the surface and thousands of meters down, between 3,300 and 9,800 feet. It is one of the many species of deep sea fish that can produce their own light through a chemical process known as bioluminescence. They cannot luminesce longer than 30 minutes without adrenaline, but in the presence of adrenaline, it can produce light for many hours. They produce blue-green light, the wavelengths of which can travel the farthest in the ocean. The deep sea dragonfish waves its barbel back and forth and and produces flashing lights on and off to attract prey and potential mates. Many of the species they prey upon also produce light themselves, which is why they have evolved to have black stomach walls to keep the light concealed while digesting their meal in order to stay hidden from predators. And coming in at number 1 is immortal jellyfish. The immortal jellyfish is a species of small biological immortal jellyfish found worldwide in tropic waters. Given the nickname immortal jellyfish for its ability to revert back to a polyp stage when it is starving or in danger and basically escaping death, researchers believe this jellyfish may hold the cure to cancer. Under normal conditions, its life cycle is divided into 4 parts. The union of the male and female gametes produces larva or planuna. It then attaches to the seabed as a polyp similar to an anemone. The polyp then releases ephora or young jellyfish in the phase prior to sexual maturity. They become jellyfish, reproduce sexually, and start over. But if they are stressed by an environmental threat, the jellyfish revert. After reproducing, they return to the previous phases, becoming polyps on the ocean floor again. As far as scientists know, jellyfish can repeat the process indefinitely. Thus, they are said to be biologically immortal. They can be eaten by a predator or fall into the hands of a swimmer, but they do not die of old age, which is pretty cool, but it's crazy that they can do this.